times. A cold and rather windy start for all. It'll be a cold, clear and locally frosty start with a risk of some early icy patches. Cloudier conditions towards Edinburgh with a little rain or hill snow possible. There will be a mixture of showers and clear spells at first for Northern Ireland. The showers possibly wintry at times. It will be rather windy and feeling cold. Wintry showers will persist in the east, remaining drier in the west. Windy in the south, but winds easing in the north.
Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
You're watching GB News live across the UK and the world on our digital stream.
GB News is Britain's news channel.
We are the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
We are here for you. Don't forget to join our YouTube community by clicking on that subscribe button.
And if you want the GB News app, you can click and catch up on programmes anytime.
We love to hear from you, so email us.
gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Thanks for being part of the GB News family.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage. I'm Colin Brazier. I've reported from more than 70 countries around the world, covered wars from Afghanistan to Iraq, from Lebanon to the Balkans. I'm trying to bring that experience, that feel for events, to the studio. And something else, I'm ready to give an opinion. Today's stories with a spark. Brazier from 8 p.m. weekdays on GB News.
A really busy show coming up. In The Clash, should we pay people to lose weight with cinema tickets and vouchers for the shops? We'll debate that from all sides in The Clash. Plus, pop superstar Limahl. Can't wait to have him in the studio. What a story he's got to tell. We'll talk showbiz, we'll talk music, and we'll talk Christmas number ones. Really excited about that. You can get your questions in right now. mark@gbnews.uk. Plus, we get all of the news in the world of showbiz from America with Kinsey Schofield. And your emails, and the Great British Game Show, and my all-star panel. First up, the headlines with Karen.
Thank you, Mark. Here are your latest headlines. The Health Secretary says all international arrivals to the UK will again be required to take pre-departure COVID-19 tests. The rule applies to all travellers entering the UK, regardless of vaccination status. It'll come into force next Tuesday at 4 a.m. Nigeria will also be added to the travel red list from Monday morning, joining 10 other African countries. Only UK and Irish citizens and residents who are travelling from Nigeria will be allowed entry and must isolate in a government-approved hotel for 10 days. Meanwhile, a further 25 cases of the Omicron variant have been confirmed in England. This brings the total number of confirmed cases to 160 across the whole of the United Kingdom. The parents of a teenager charged with the murder of 4 students in Michigan have pleaded not guilty to 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter. A judge imposed a combined $1 million bail for James and Jennifer Crumbly hours after police said they had been caught hiding in Detroit. The couple's lawyer has denied they were on the run, but said they had left town for their own safety. Charges were brought against the parents, accusing them of failing to intervene in their son's alleged involvement in the shooting at Oxford High School in Michigan. The Metropolitan Police say they are considering complaints about alleged Christmas parties at Number 10 last year. Labour backbenchers have written to Scotland Yard asking officers to investigate reports that 2 were held when such gatherings were banned. The Met said that it did not routinely investigate retrospective breaches of the COVID regulations, but it would consider the complaint. Boris Johnson hasn't denied the events took place, but said no rules were broken. Nearly 300 military personnel are being drafted in to assist thousands of homes that are still without power 8 days after Storm Arwen hit the UK. As of early Friday evening, just over 9,000 homes were still cut off. Freezing temperatures are expected in parts of the north of England and Scotland, as well as sleet and rain over the next 24 hours. And footballers and fans across the country have paid tribute to Arthur Labinjo Hughes during today's fixtures. The 6-year-old was killed after suffering abuse at the hands of his father and stepmother, who were jailed yesterday. His favourite club, Birmingham City, wore Arthur We Love You T-shirts and carried a banner bearing his picture before their match. A minute's silence was also held in the 6th minute of the game between West Ham and Chelsea. You are right up to date now. Back to Mark Dolan tonight.
It's Saturday, the 4th of December, 2021. Christmas is coming, and you're watching Mark Dolan tonight. A cracking show for you this evening. My Mark Meets guest is pop superstar Limahl, who scored a string of hits with Kajagoogoo and, of course, as a solo artist as well. And Limahl will be telling me his never-ending story at 10. In Frequently Asked Questions, I'll speak to an amazing guy, Tom Yendell, who paints Christmas cards with his mouth and feet. He's an incredible artist with a remarkable skill, and he explains how it's done at 10:20. We'll speak to gardener and professional baker Helen Gray, who was on the protest march in Edinburgh this afternoon, campaigning against COVID passports. This is a woman who dresses up and hangs out with the public, offering free cakes every Saturday in her community to get her message across about COVID restrictions. What a delicious and inspiring way to get your message across. In the clash, should people be rewarded for losing weight with cinema tickets and shopping vouchers? We'll hear from both sides on that one. And we will head stateside to the queen of US showbiz and royal reporting, Kinsey Schofield. Could Alec Baldwin go to jail for the accidental shooting on the set of his latest film? Plus, how is America reacting to Meghan Markle's recent court victory? Has it fed the monster? Reacting to the big stories of the day and to tomorrow's newspaper headlines, I'm delighted to welcome my panel tonight. Top sports broadcaster Aidan McGee, that's right, the king of sports reporting. Best-selling author, lawyer and presenter Rebecca Jane. And journalist and commentator Connor Tomlinson. But this show is all about you. My priority is to get your opinions on the national television airwaves. So drop me a line now and throughout the show, mark@gbnews.uk. I can offer you a heady mix of information, debate and entertainment in equal measure. We like a ding-dong on this show. We don't do boring, not on my watch, but we keep it fun and light where possible too. It's the weekend after all. Big 3 hours to come. It is Saturday night, so give the Peronis 10 minutes in the freezer, or fire up the kettle, warm the pot, and tear open the mince pies, because we've got work to do. Now, we're supposed to be a nation of animal lovers, but we've got a funny way of demonstrating the extent to which we love animals. It seems that the victims of lockdown haven't only had 2 legs. I completely understand why many early in lockdown got a dog, a cat or another pet when faced with the prospect of months of solitude at home. With all of your work meetings happening via computer, it was nice to have the company of a canine, and the need to walk a dog 2 or 3 times a day was a welcome excuse to get out of the house and, of course, to get your daily exercise without breaking the rules. Life at home, working on your own terms, of course, often in your pyjamas with a lap dog on your lap, seemed like the shape of things to come. But that was then, and this is now. By hook or by crook, we're slowly getting back to normal. Meetings are happening face-to-face, and the office beckons for millions, at least for a few days of the week. So what happens to the cat, the dog, the gerbil, the hamster, the parrot, the tarantula that you bought last year during lockdown? All too often, it's a tale of neglect and rejection. The Daily Mail have reported movingly on this in their paper today. The charity Many Tears, based near Llanelli in Carmarthenshire in South Wales, for example, recently took in 172 adult dogs and puppies, adding to the 3,500 they rescue every year. These figures are expected to spiral in the months to come. If we love animals so much, we must do better. When we acquire a pet, we have to understand that it's a 10, 15 or 20-year commitment, longer than most marriages. My kids will be long out of college and getting on with their lives when I'm still caring for our family cat, Harry. That wonderful chap has given us 5 years of joy already, but he may have another 15 in his locker. Here's hoping. What a lovely boy. So we have to think about whether we have the time and indeed accommodation for a pet in our lives. What about the budget for all of those vet bills, pet food, medicine, and if it comes to it, dog walking services? None of us seem to struggle with the initial cost of buying a pet, but it's the ongoing cost years down the line which gives us a change of heart. It wasn't the dog or cat's idea to be purchased, but it becomes his or her problem when you've decided you want out. Where does the pet go? He's out on his ear, out on the street, and if the vet deems it necessary, he's out for the count and put to sleep. Thousands of unwanted animals are euthanized every year. Add to that our affection for more exotic and luxurious breeds. It's feeding a criminal market in dogs in particular, which is why so many dogs are stolen every day. That's before you get to the myriad health problems suffered by these little creatures as a result of inbreeding, so that their tail can be the right length, their ears the right shape, and their eyes the right colour. All too often, just a few months or years into their lives, these animals have been so genetically modified, some of them can barely walk, barely breathe, or barely see. If we love animals so much, we can do better. So think twice before you take the leap. It's easier and less cruel to divorce another human being than one of God's creatures. At least a human divorce is a mutual decision. Animals are a blessing, a gift to humanity and one that will keep on giving. But only if we understand they are a gift that doesn't come with a receipt to be taken back to the shop when we've had second thoughts. Pets come with a strict no returns policy. A dog is not a kettle, a toaster, or a flat screen telly. It's incredibly hard to rehouse unwanted and pre-owned pets. So if you do decide that you're going to acquire a pet, consider rescuing a rescue. They've all got a story to tell. They're survivors. Their hearts are as big as their sad eyes, and they've got so much to give. Think carefully about where you collect your canine or where you go to get your pussy. That's a good life lesson. The shelter is the place to go if you can, because these places, staffed often by volunteers, are full and the animals need love. See if you can find a catatonic cat, a dodgy Dalmatian, a manky mongrel, or a Shih Tzu in a shit state. It could be second time lucky for these wonderful creatures, and first time lucky for you. A pet is for life, not just for lockdown. Now, the Chancellor Rishi Sunak is drawing up plans to cut taxes, according to today's Times. Mr. Sunak is preparing to cut income tax by 2p in the pound or to slash VAT rates before the next election, the paper has learned. The Chancellor has apparently told officials to draw up detailed plans to reduce the tax burden, with a third option of cutting inheritance tax also under consideration. Under the proposals seen by the Times, the 45 pence higher rate of income tax could be scrapped. Basic rate payers would be up to 750 quid better off each year, and VAT on green energy could be reduced. Now, I've got to say, as the Prime Minister gets bounced from one crisis to another, Rishi Sunak at number 11 seems to be our only hope. This young Chancellor is the grown-up in the room. I've always said that lockdowns should not have happened, but if you're going to make people stay at home, you've got to compensate them. And the furlough scheme, with that objective, was a triumphant policy success. And it looks to have saved not just countless businesses, but millions of jobs to boot. But we know that Rishi Sunak is genuinely troubled by the eye-watering amounts of borrowing that continue to happen on his watch. And it's rumoured that he's reluctant to see any more COVID measures inflicted upon the British people. Needless panic, in my view, over Omicron has already seen office parties and organised events cancelled, with the resulting economic damage and, of course, more pain for an already beleaguered hospitality sector who were desperately hoping to make some coin this Christmas. But I suspect that Sunak also worries that we've had almost 2 years of undiluted socialism. We've paid people to stay at home, we've crashed the economy, and we've borrowed billions. It sounds a lot like socialism to me. Boris might have forgotten he's a Conservative. Rishi Sunak, in the months to come, has an opportunity to prove that he still is. Now, there's no point banging on about money for the NHS, pay rises for public sector workers, infrastructure, police on the streets, education, overseas aid, all levelling up if there's no money coming in. For too long, the economy has been the whipping boy of this pandemic, needlessly assaulted for the pursuit of this unprecedented scientific experiment of lockdown, which in my view has failed dramatically and caused untold and lasting damage. So if you're going to save lives and get Britain back on a path to recovery, you're going to need a healthy economy, because it's the economy that pays for the health and well-being of the British people. Drunk on a diet of endless borrowing, politicians and Whitehall mandarins are hooked on spending someone else's money. But with the national debt now standing at over 2 trillion quid, accounting for over 100% of GDP, that money, other people's money, yours and mine, is running out. So we must grow to recover, and we've got to pay our bills from our income rather than endlessly extending the nation's overdraft and landing future generations with the bill. You know as well as I do that you cannot spend more than is coming in indefinitely. A country is ultimately no different to a household. One way to get the economy growing is to cut taxes. Because here's the thing, they are about to hit their highest level since the 1950s. You put money back in people's pockets and let them decide how to spend it. You give businesses the wiggle room with which to hire more staff and invest in their product. High taxes are a vicious circle, leading to more debt, weak growth, and diminishing financial returns. High taxes are a race to the bottom. Low taxes are a race to the top. They stimulate growth, encourage investment, and will be the key mechanism by which Britain recovers from the biggest recession in 300 years. As we emerge from the pandemic, anyone with any wisdom is an anti-taxer. We're all anti-taxers now, and let's hope Rishi Sunak is one of them. What our economy needs now is an injection of common sense. This is GB News. With me reacting to the big stories of the day and looking at tomorrow's newspaper front pages is my amazing panel tonight. Top sports broadcaster Aidan McGee, best-selling author, lawyer and presenter Rebecca Jane, and journalist and commentator Connor Tomlinson. Great to have all three of you with me. Rebecca Jane, what are your thoughts about lockdown pets?
As somebody that had 3 dogs, and as somebody that's got severe commitment issues, I avoided them at all costs. I think that they are fabulous. I think it'd be lovely if I could have one, but I'm not prepared, so I'm not doing it. But yeah, nice idea in theory.
Yes, and of course it was a theory for some, but reality for others, Aidan, and I wonder whether there'll be cats and dogs now paying the price.
Absolutely. I mean, I'll tell you something, Mark, actually. Look at dating apps. It seems that in the last sort of 5 years or so, pets have been the latest accessory on every dating profile you can possibly see. Now, I know blokes who actually have bought dogs so that they can go out to the park and it helps them attract women. Not me, I might add. But
you don't need a dog.
Yeah, that is what I said. Yes,
That's not what you said.
What did I say?
You said that that's exactly why you had a pet.
No, that was off camera. No, not off camera. No, I didn't.
Aidan, you don't need any props when you're in the park, let me tell you.
Well, no, seriously, but you look through... honestly, Mark, I could show you now. I could go through Bumble or Hinge or any of those lot and go through the number of profile pictures you see. You've got Chihuahuas, Dalmatians, Greyhounds or whatever, and people are using it for reasons other than the benefit of the pet, as you made out in your monologue.
You're right, there are loads of dogs on dating apps.
Yeah, I mean, I've got to ask you, Connor, do you go to the park with a pooch?
No, I don't. I think my girlfriend enough. My actual thing is, I think there's going to be a lot of lockdown pets as a sort of replacement. You see all these dog and cat mums, because we're in currently a baby bust because of lockdown. A lot of people said, people are spending a lot of time at home with their significant others. We might see the birth rate go up. Unfortunately, the economic factors, as you alluded to in your second monologue, have put a massive cap on the amount of people who want to have kids because of their financial situation. So that means a lot of people are buying dogs, cats and budgies and etc. as surrogate children. And unfortunately, a lot of those people realise it's a heavy commitment issue and they abandon them prematurely.
Of course, our taxes are a big commitment as well, are they not, Connor? Do you think that the Chancellor can afford to cut taxes before the next election?
I think if he keeps up his spending plan, he won't. I mean, he came on GBNews fairly recently and said, I'm a fiscal conservative because I know it's not my money I'm spending, and then proceeded to admit that net zero is going to cost over $1 trillion. I did some modelling on this, by the way. If we tried to do all of the country powered on wind power, we'd only meet about 40% of all of our energy needs, and it costs £3 trillion, and all of the batteries around the world made between now and 2028. So it's a bit of a disastrous plan. I think it's mainly him signalling, hey, Boris has been very unpopular for his high tax, high spend agenda, and he's been a foot soldier for that with the Treasury, printing a lot of money to make up for the furlough scheme. Inflation's essentially a tax on poor people at this point. So he's trying to say, I'm recommitting myself to the 2019 mandate that we were elected on as a challenge to Boris's leadership should he become the patsy for the bad COVID policy later on. He's seeing Liz Truss on his left in Estonia riding along a tank like Margaret Thatcher, so he's thinking, I better make some headline waves and position myself as an effective Conservative Party candidate.
Rebecca Jane, how can you borrow money and cut taxes at the same time?
Well, I just don't see how you can. In fact, actually, I sit around and I go, does the government even have a plan? Like, what are they actually doing? Has anybody actually even thought about it? Because it doesn't feel like they have. The only plan that they seem to be having, in my opinion, is that the people who are poorest in this country seem to be suffering the hardest. And where are they actually putting the money into? Do they even give it any thought? Because I personally don't think that they're quite spending it in entirely the correct areas. But, I'm not the expert on this one. I just have common sense.
We're about, within the next 12 months, to have the highest taxes since the 1950s, Aidan. Is this sustainable? Are we now just living in a high-tax economy and we've got to accept that?
Yeah, I think it's high tax, it's also big government, but we've known since the 80s now that high taxation does not stimulate growth. We've known that ever since the mid-70s, in fact, when we first saw economics producing the Laffer curve, where there's a tipping point in relation to how much tax you can charge, and once it goes over that, you will get stunted growth. John Redwood was very interested on this on his one of his blogs about a year or so ago. He served in government, of course, under John Major back in the 90s, and he said that the little trick that we used in the Treasury was that if we wanted to increase our tax take and we wanted to increase revenue into the economy, we would actually reduce taxation. And that's because it carries risk, high taxation of obviously companies finding other solutions around the country, but around the world within the international community, with a view to reducing taxes and becoming tax efficient. That's what we all do as individuals. That's what companies do as well. So, yeah, we certainly have to reduce taxation. I think the Conservative government, this current Conservative government, may have to hold that back as, I wouldn't say a bribe, that would be cynical, and I'm not a cynic, but certainly as an incentive ahead of the next election, because it may not be as plain sailing as we thought it was going to be.
My fabulous panel will be with me for the duration of the show, reacting to the big stories of the day and looking at tomorrow's newspaper front pages. But what do you think? Should taxes come down between now and the next election? Can it be afforded? Or is it, as is my view, the only way to actually unlock recovery? Mark at gbnews.uk. Plus, let's talk about lockdown pets. Are we still a nation of animal lovers? Tell me your thoughts on that. Coming up before 10, we're going to speak to a campaigner who marched in Edinburgh today against COVID vaccine passports. We'll speak to the Scottish campaigner Helen Gray, who has a very novel and rather delicious way of getting her message across. Also, don't forget, pop superstar Limahl is live in the studio at 10. And boy, has he got a story to tell. A never-ending story. You're welcome. But after this, in The Clash, should people be rewarded for losing weight with cinema tickets and shopping vouchers? You can have your say. Go to our Twitter at GBNews and vote in our poll or via email. Lots to come. A busy, busy show. See you in 2.
You're watching GB News live across the UK and the world on our digital stream.
GB News is Britain's news channel.
We are the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
We are here for you. Don't forget to join our YouTube community by clicking on that subscribe button.
And if you want the GB News app, you can click and catch up on programmes anytime.
We love to hear from you, so email us.
gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Thanks for being part of the GB News family.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of 2 wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Colin Brazier. I've reported from more than 70 countries around the world, covered wars from Afghanistan to Iraq, from Lebanon to the Balkans. I'm trying to bring that experience, that feel for events, to the studio. And something else. I'm ready to give an opinion. Today's stories with a spark. Brazier from 8 p.m. weekdays on GB News.
Big reaction coming in to my big opinion piece, which George is currently crafting for our Twitter feed. It will be up very, very shortly indeed. And let's have a look. Here we go. This is from Aid, who says, Mark, this is one of the oldest tricks in the political book. Raise taxes early in the term and put in the sweeteners just before the election. These people have got no principles. They say one thing and do the complete opposite. It doesn't matter what Rishi says. They've lost all credibility. And Gordon says, Mark, great show. Why, oh, why should pie eaters be rewarded for losing weight? I mean, really, should I get a reward for not drinking alcohol for 17 years? No, I did it for my health and well-being, not because I could see the latest bloody Bond film. Where are we going? Well, Gordon, that takes me nicely to the topic of this evening's Clash, in which, of course, we tackle a big story of the day from opposing points of view. Tonight, As the country is in the grip of an obesity crisis, should people be rewarded for losing weight with shop vouchers or cinema tickets? Wolverhampton, where a third of people are classified as physically inactive, has been chosen as the trial city for what Health Secretary Sajid Javid described as an exciting new NHS weight loss scheme involving free cinema tickets, shopping vouchers and gym passes. So will this work, and is this good use of public funds? To debate this issue, I'm delighted to welcome Steve Miller, one of the best-known figures in weight loss in the country, the founder of the mindset and motivational weight loss program, Fatnosis. Also joining us is health and fitness guru Marvin Ambrosius, along with my panellist, best-selling author, lawyer and presenter Rebecca Jane. Great to have all three of you with me. First of all, Marvin Ambrosius, what's your view? Do you think that we should incentivise people to lose weight?
Well, first of all, it's very bold and it's very out there. It's something where I was quite shocked when I read about it, because it all comes down to accountability. And first and foremost, what we're actually doing is taking out of each other's hands and putting that into a scheme to where we're allowing people to think that they're going to do something just because they're going to get vouchers back. Funny enough, when they mentioned in the article that cinema vouchers, have you ever seen anybody in the cinema eat an apple? I don't think I have, because it's popcorn, it's chocolate. So if we're going to talk about incentives, let's focus on the education. Let's focus on getting people to understand that it's about it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. You have to get people to do something through creating habits. The only great thing I think that works with this is that the children that are going to watch their parents that have had the bad habits over the years, they're going to see their parents moving more, hopefully, to which then their kids will copy them. And it won't be about incentivizing them. It will be about them understanding that it's about your health and your well-being, because it's very difficult for people to change their habits. And financially as well, there's families that don't have the education, understanding of how to even feed their kids in a way where it's not going to be the chips, the beige foods, the burgers, the sausages. The things that are cheap are usually the things that can keep and spread a plate for a bigger family. So really, hopefully, within that app, there are things that create the education around nutrition, because you can't outwork a bad diet. So it doesn't matter how much somebody's moving, how many steps they're taking a day, they could work out twice a day. If you were eating the wrong foods, consuming more fats, more calories, you're not going to be able to lose the weight. You will get fitter, but physically, you won't really see that changes. And ultimately for the NHS, that 6 million will remain at 6 million every year.
Steve Miller, what's the problem with motivating people to lose weight?
Well, there's nothing wrong with it, but this is absolute cobblers. Because you see, when we talk about motivation, this scheme, by the way, this kind of scheme has been done before. There was an NHS trust down in Kent that tried it, and it was a complete mess. It was a complete failure. And 3/4 of the people that signed up for it actually didn't even complete it. Now, and why have we always got to bribe people to take responsibility? You know, Savage Javid, oh, we're going to pay you to stop being fat. It's just ridiculous. And the thing I would say as well, in terms of the mechanics of this scheme actually working, people cheat it. People will cheat it. It just, and what we're doing with these sort of things is we're developing a culture of victimhood. Everyone loves to be a victim these days and point the finger at everybody else. Oh, it's your fault that I'm fat, so you've got to pay me. Well, what this is really is it's paying people to lose weight. It's bribing them. And what happens with motivation, I can tell you now, it'll wane. It might start with good intent, but it will wane very quickly. And we've got to get away from this victim culture and start developing and nurturing a culture that is much more about, if you're fat, you take responsibility. Now, Marvin, I agree, speaks a lot of sense, actually. But the one thing I disagree with him about is going down the route of, oh, parents can't afford it, healthy food's too expensive. Nonsense. The Institute of Economic Affairs did a survey on this. They did it very well, and it proved that healthy food is cheaper. And we've never had so much education in this country in terms of knowing that. In fact, I've got some here, that an apple is better than eating a chocolate bar. We already know that. It's not the food. It's here. and it's can't be bothered itis with many people. And that might make me unpopular with a lot of people. But you know what? 20 years in this game, we're suffering with can't be bothered itis.
Well, look, Steve has just produced an apple, but actually, Rebecca, this is about carrot, not stick. We're just encouraging people to do the right thing and rewarding them when they achieve their goals.
Yeah, and we shouldn't have to. Whole project's doomed for failure from the start. It's nonsense. I am a classic yo-yo dieter, hold my hands up. I've been on all ends of the scale. I will tell you the one thing, you're never going to bribe somebody with cinema tickets to lose weight, because it takes this switch in here to go, and eventually you go, do you know what, I'm going to do something about it. And what really winds me right up, and this probably won't come as any surprise, is that the government think that what's a really good idea is let's give money to cinemas and buy cinema tickets when we could be spending it on mental health and actually helping the mindset of these people. I'm all in favour of social prescribing. One of my favourite things, I think it's the future to sorting out our mental health crisis. And in this respect, gym membership, yeah, fine, give that away. Second of all, actually educating people on what they're actually eating, nutrition advice, yeah, that's fine too. Giving them cinema tickets, you're absolutely insulting the public of this country.
I don't know.
I think I have to say,
go on, Steve.
People that are too fat, most people that are too fat don't agree with it. They think it's very patronising. But can I come back to the point that's just been made, which is, we've been saying in 20 years, I can tell you now, we've been talking about, it's all about education, it's all about nutrition education, and all of this sort of stuff. Listen, how much more education do people want? I'll tell you why people are getting too fat in this country is because they have become lazy-minded. And what we need, and that's because, I'll tell you why, that's because we're having things like these big models, big fat models in magazines that are normalising obesity. That's one of the big reasons.
I'm backing up on that one. Sorry, I got to cut you on that one. You know what? It's not about normalising, it's about inclusivity. Because you know what? One thing that happens every single time, I've had thousands of clients, and there's one thing everybody doesn't take into account. If I've had a client that's lost 4 stone, but they happen to be 20 stone where they started, and then you make them feel bad about where they are right now, where do you think that puts them? They're on a weight journey.
Absolute rubbish. Let me tell you why.
Rebecca?
You've got to it's interesting you say that, Marvin, but you would not be saying, OK, you want inclusivity. Let's have skinny models in magazines then. Do you agree with that?
That happened for years. We already did that. We already did that.
You'd be moaning, eating disorders.
Knock it down.
Yeah? All this inclusivity is bonkers. What we need is reality.
Bonkers.
You don't put people that are too thin, you don't put people that are too fat in magazines.
No. Sir Mix-a-Lot said it best. He said, I like big butts and I cannot lie. That whole music video back in the 90s was about magazines not showing women with big bums, not showing women with big boobs. And it was taboo at the time. Every single female right now that gets promoted and publicised, the biggest being a Kardashian, is big bum and big boobs. And every girl in every gym that I want to go to wants that body. But no, listen.
What I'm
Go on, finish your point, Marvin. That was not considered beautiful before. But it's considered beautiful now, but it's not achievable.
That being fat is acceptable. And that's what magazines do. With fat
Rebecca.
For a second.
Rebecca Jane.
Thank you, Mark. You need to knock it off because it's about health. If that person is unhealthy, I absolutely support them losing weight to make them healthy. However, it is not about size. We do not need to be deeming size as being what is beautiful.
You cannot be fat and fit.
Absolutely everybody, regardless of their size, is beautiful, and beauty is in the eye of the beholder. If you've got a problem with that, you need to sort out your attitude.
Well, you did just mention something. You can't be fat and not fit. Let me finish this one point.
Okay, Marvin, then I'll come back to you.
Let me get this one point.
Marvin makes his point, and I'll come back to you, Steve.
I'll get this one point, Steve. Steve, one point. One point.
That's what's wrong with this
Hold fire, Steve. Hold fire.
Celebrating obesity. We are normalising obesity. And you might not like that message, but it's true. And I get fed up to the back teeth of where people are saying, we should be, big is beautiful, big is wonderful, big is fabulous. And the next breath is saying to me, what about child obesity? You want it both ways.
No, what you got to look at is you can be fit and you can be overweight. There's people that work out 7, 10 times a week, but they haven't changed their nutrition. The difference is their fitness is amazing, but what you're looking at is the education towards that. And what we're trying to do is change the behavior. It's just behavior. Some people are comfortable. And another thing as well, people are comfortable where they are. Who am I to tell somebody, Marvin, that they're not comfortable with who they are right now?
There's a question from Steve, which is, are you saying you can be fat and healthy at the same time?
You can't be fat, you can't be overweight and healthy at the same time. You can't be healthy. Like when I say overweight, there's different levels to being overweight. Someone could be deemed overweight. Anthony Joshua is actually clinically obese.
Yes.
So are you going to talk to me about obesity? He's one of the fittest people I can mention, but he's clinically obese. So when you talk about that, there's different levels of obesity and different levels of fitness.
Steve Miller? Steve Miller?
The common sense is that we are normalising obesity in this country by promoting fat as acceptable. People are even too nervous to use the word fat because of political correctness, which has gone mad. The word fat won't hurt you. Being too fat will. That's the reality.
How you say something to an individual is what's hurtful to them.
Well, now here's a really important point from Steve Miller, which I'll put to both you, Marvin, and also Rebecca Jane, which is whatever policies we currently have, they're not working because, Marvin, obesity is exploding in this country. And the pandemic has exposed us to the worst of the virus because of the country's high BMI.
Yeah. Well,
it ain't working, is it? We've got to do something, Marvin.
Well, we have to do something. And do you know what? This is where...
I'll come back to you.
This is where I come into the 50-50 mark. It's better to do something than do nothing. With them starting this scheme, the way I looked at it was there's going to be a percentage, could be a small percentage, could be a big percentage, of people that are going to partake in this and actually see some change. That's okay. Is it going to equate to it being less than 6 million on the NHS every year? I don't know. But if the government are trying something to help people, they might not have done it in the way that I would have done it or suggested it, but at least they're trying to do something. I don't know if it's right now, but with what the kids are doing, I've got children, and video games, gaming, and going out, all I used to do was go outside and play as a kid. That's all I love doing. Now, you barely see kids outside. We're living in a new world, but we need to figure out how we can get people to want to move, but not just because they're going to be healthy, but they want to move for the longevity of their lifespan.
Rebecca Jane, final thoughts on this. The clock's against us. How do we fix this problem? We can agree there's a problem, so what's the answer?
You fix this problem by throwing out the plan that they've currently got, readdressing it, doing it more in a social prescribing route and letting the power back to the people and them to decide on what will help them to lose weight. But you're never going to do anything about it unless that mindset shifts. That's hard to say from the get-go.
You got those words out. It's a family show. You had me on the edge of my seat there. Marvin, briefly, what's your solution? I know that you're a very popular health and fitness guru online with many, many happy clients. So what's your answer to this?
My answer would be to basically, they need to start again from the drawing board and go back to exactly what we're talking about, restructuring to thinking about people's mental health, restructuring the education system, and really going to grassroots of getting it, because we might have lost the generation that aren't going to understand that we need to move and bring this back to the children for the next generation afterwards.
And Steve Miller, briefly, if you can, you are the guru at Fatnosis, which is a motivational and mindset weight loss program. What do you think the answer to Britain's obesity crisis is?
We get firmer, we get more direct, we stop normalisation of obesity, which we've been doing exceptionally well in this country, and we ditch political correctness around it.
Brilliant stuff. A straight answer to a straight question. My sincere thanks to Steve Miller, Marvin Ambrosius and Rebecca Jane. I'm delighted to say Rebecca stays with me for the rest of the show to react to the big stories of the day. But here's what you're thinking. Only 22% of you say that we should reward people for losing weight, while 78% say we should not. Lots to come. We'll find out about an anti-COVID vaccine passport march in Edinburgh today. And don't forget, there's still time for you to get your questions in to pop superstar Limahl, who joins me in the studio at 10. So get your questions over. mark@gbnews.uk. First up, the weather.
It's time to remind ourselves there's always another winter. Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Looking ahead to tomorrow's weather, and the UK is looking rather windy and chilly at first, with wintry showers, especially in the east. Let's now take a look at the details. It'll be a rather cold and very windy start in the southwest. There'll be scattered showers, some heavy, and turning wintry over the high ground of the moors. A chilly start with strong, gusty winds for all areas. It'll be cloudy with outbreaks of rain, possibly bringing a little sleet over the hills. Remaining very windy and cold in Wales with some clear skies. There'll be scattered showers at times, these wintry over the higher ground. It'll be mostly cloudy in the northwest at first. The odd shower is possible, again turning wintry over high ground. It'll be very windy, especially near to the coast, and feeling cold. Starting with showers and longer spells of rain in the northeast on Sunday morning, this bringing sleet or hill snow at times. A cold and rather windy start for all. It'll be a cold, clear and locally frosty start with a risk of some early icy patches. Cloudier conditions towards Edinburgh with a little rain or hill snow possible. There will be a mixture of showers and clear spells at first for Northern Ireland. The showers possibly wintry at times. It will be rather windy and feeling cold. Wintry showers will persist in the east, remaining drier in the west. Windy in the south, but winds easing in the north.
Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
You're watching GB News live across the UK and the world on our digital stream.
GB News is Britain's news channel.
We are the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
We are here for you. Don't forget to join our YouTube community by clicking on that subscribe button.
And if you want the GB News app, you can click and catch up on programmes anytime.
We love to hear from you, so email us.
gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Thanks for being part of the GB News family.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Colin Brazier. I've reported from more than 70 countries around the world, covered wars from Afghanistan to Iraq, from Lebanon to the Balkans. I'm trying to bring that experience, that feel for events, to the studio. And something else, I'm ready to give an opinion. Today's stories with a spark. Brazier from 8 p.m. weekdays on GB News.
Pop superstar Limahl, of course, a solo career, and Kajagoogoo tells me his never-ending story at 10, live in the studio. Can't wait for that one. Get your questions in. Big response to my big opinion discussion earlier in the show. A message from Alex in Glasgow. Hi, Mark. I'm a regular viewer of GB News. I think it's an excellent alternative to the BBC and Sky. Your monologue tonight was particularly good, and I felt the need to ask if you write it all yourself. If you've done so without the input of wordsmith editors, then you are even more talented than I had credited you for. Alex, kind words, and yes, I write every syllable. I also do my own hair, which is another story. But thanks for your kind words. And if you want to watch my big opinion monologue, which happened earlier in the show, you'll be able to find it on our Twitter feed very shortly. It's being edited as we speak, courtesy of the brilliant George. On being paid to lose weight, Linda says, this is nothing to do with being good for us, purely as usual to help the NHS. When will the government and public health stop bossing us around and journalists stop showing off. So Lynn there, not happy and not pulling her punches. Peter says, Mark, there was one fat lad in my junior school and one fat lad in my senior school. You tell me what's happened. Dennis says, just sanction the benefits and see how it goes. I went from average weight to clinically underweight when the government sanctioned me for 6 months, and my health has not recovered. I've had pneumonia and ended up with severe nerve damage due to vitamin deficiency. Bring back community centres who are run by the community. Well, Dennis, I'm really sorry to hear that you've been poorly, and I wish you a speedy recovery. Do look after yourself and do make sure that you reach out for the help that you clearly need. And finally, Gordon says, hello again, Mark. I guess a £15 cinema ticket is cheaper than a hospital bed for a week. Well put. Thank you so much, Gordon. Elsewhere in the media, protests, including those against COVID restrictions, are often underplayed or even ignored. Here at GB News, we always want to hear what the public are saying. And so it fell to the people of Scotland to descend on Carlton Hill and Princes Street in Edinburgh this afternoon for a freedom rally which argues against vaccine passports and other COVID restrictions. One of the people at the protest was Helen Gray, a professional gardener and someone who made headlines early in the pandemic by setting up an organisation called Cake and Liberty, in which she bakes a load of cakes and distributes them every Saturday to her local community, dressed up in bright colours and brandishing a homemade protest banner, a home-sewn one, don't you know? Well, that's democracy, free speech and fabulous craft all rolled into one. And Helen Gray joins me now. Hi, Helen.
Hello, Mark. How are you?
I'm really well. Lovely to see you on the show. Can you first of all tell me, before we get to what happened in Edinburgh today, why you started to make cakes and serve them to the community early in the pandemic? What was behind the idea?
Well, I'm feeling a bit sheepish about this now, having just listened to your previous panel about the obesity epidemic. And I have to say, somebody did raise the point that by handing out cakes, I was, in fact, perhaps not doing the most helpful thing, given that obesity is one of the major confounding factors in a bad COVID outcome. But I thought that if I wandered around the streets just offering apples, say, to people, I wouldn't meet the same response. I started it back in March of this year. And I started it because I saw that my community was isolated, was depressed, scared, and absolutely starved of human contact. And at that point in Scotland, we were under, well, call it house arrest, call it stay-at-home orders, but we were only allowed to leave our houses for very few reasons. Exercise being one of them. So I took my daily exercise, and as part of that, I wandered around the streets of my hometown in St Andrews, handing out cakes. And I have one here. This is a chocolate brownie, which I bake. I had some little cards printed because the first time that I was handing out cakes, I think people thought I was advertising for a local bakery or something like that. And this way I can give them a little message, which just says, you know, we've protected the most vulnerable. It is time to start living our lives now. And only we can decide to stop being afraid.
And that takes us to your message today at the protest in Edinburgh, at Carlton Hill and on Princes Street. You've actually recorded some footage for us. Let's take a look. Having lived for 4 years in beautiful Edinburgh, I'm very familiar with the rainy Princes Street. What was today's march in aid of?
It was for two things and two things only. It was no to vaccine passports and no to vaccine mandates. There were in that march, as there are in every march, a people espousing all sorts of points of view. But the most wonderful thing about this march in freezing and wet Edinburgh today was that we had vaccinated, we had unvaccinated. We had people who came together protesting about civil rights, against masks for children in schools. But the one thing that united absolutely everyone was a determination to preserve civil liberties and to resist at all cost coercion and mandatory vaccinations.
How do you see this this particular story developing? Do you think we'll ever see an end to these measures, Helen?
I don't know how the government gets out of it, frankly. Once you've introduced something saying, this is necessary, it becomes very difficult to then say, that was necessary then, but now it's not anymore. I mean, look at all of the difficulty that the Prime Minister had in the run-up to the July, well, first of all, the June, and then the July Freedom Day, with the howls of many unions and different organizations saying that this was reckless, this is one of the reasons why we should always be so careful about introducing any kind of restriction, because if you don't know when you introduce it what your exit strategy is, how you are going to stop that, then you can find yourselves, as we find ourselves now, with an absolutely terrified populace, terrified beyond rational grounds for one particular virus. I don't know how we get out of this, frankly. But
no, and of course the measures have been even stricter north of the border under First Minister Nicola Sturgeon. Have you had any pushback for your campaigns within the community, among friends, or even within the family, Helen?
Yes, I don't think anyone who is, and you will know this, Mark, I don't think anyone who is courageous enough to stand up against and be the salmon swimming upstream, be the awkward person saying, actually, no, hang on, this doesn't feel right, I'm not okay with this, against this torrent of messaging of be safe, be safe, be safe. If you dare to stand up against this, you are going to get pushback, and I have had pushback from family, from friends, from random strangers in the street.
Helen, you know, more power to you. I wish we had longer, and we're definitely going to connect with you again, because the emails are already pouring in support of your campaign. You can be found at cakeandliberty.org online. Helen, it's been a privilege to have you on the show. A really busy show to come. Limahl is my Mark Meets guest at 10, so get your questions in now. mark@gbnews.uk. And FAQs, painting with your mouth and feet, the inspirational Tom Yendell. But first, the weather.
It's time to remind ourselves there's always another winter. Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Looking ahead to tomorrow's weather, and the UK is looking rather windy and chilly at first, with wintry showers, especially in the east. Let's now take a look at the details. It'll be a rather cold and very windy start in the southwest. There'll be scattered showers, some heavy, and turning wintry over the high ground of the moors. A chilly start with strong, gusty winds for all areas. It'll be cloudy with outbreaks of rain, possibly bringing a little sleet over the hills. Remaining very windy and cold in Wales with some clear skies. There'll be scattered showers at times, these wintry over the higher ground. It'll be mostly cloudy in the northwest at first. The odd shower is possible, again turning wintry over high ground. It'll be very windy, especially near to the coast, and feeling cold. Starting with showers and longer spells of rain in the northeast on Sunday morning, this bringing sleet or hill snow at times. A cold and rather windy start for all. It'll be a cold, clear and locally frosty start with a risk of some early icy patches.
cloudier conditions towards Edinburgh with a little rain or hill snow possible. There will be a mixture of showers and clear spells at first for Northern Ireland, the showers possibly wintry at times. It will be rather windy and feeling cold. Wintry showers will persist in the east, remaining drier in the west, windy in the south, but winds easing in the north.
Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
You're watching GB News live across the UK and the world on our digital stream.
GB News is Britain's news channel.
We are the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
We are here for you. Don't forget to join our YouTube community by clicking on that subscribe button.
And if you want the GB News app, you can click and catch up on programmes anytime.
We love to hear from you, so email us.
gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Thanks for being part of the GB News family.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Colin Brazier. I've reported from more than 70 countries around the world, covered wars from Afghanistan to Iraq, from Lebanon to the Balkans. I'm trying to bring that experience, that feel for events, to the studio. And something else. I'm ready to give an opinion. Today's stories with a spark. Brazier from 8 p.m. weekdays on GB News.
A big 2 hours to come. Pop superstar Limahl will join me shortly in the studio. Plus, Showbiz news from top American reporter Kinsey Schofield. And we'll meet the talented artist who paints Christmas cards, wait for it, with his mouth and feet due to a disability. An amazing story. This guy is so talented. Plus, my panel reacting to the big stories of the day and tomorrow's front pages. First up, the headlines with Karen.
Thank you, Mark. Hello, these are your latest headlines. The Health Secretary says all international arrivals to the UK will again be required to take pre-departure COVID-19 tests. The rule applies to all travellers entering the UK regardless of vaccination status. It'll come into force next Tuesday at 4 a.m. Nigeria will also be added to the travel red list from Monday morning, joining 10 other African countries. Only UK and Irish citizens and residents who are travelling from Nigeria will be allowed entry and must isolate in a government-approved hotel for 10 days. Meanwhile, a further 25 cases of the Omicron variant have been confirmed in England. This brings the total number of confirmed cases to 160 across the whole of the United Kingdom. The parents of a teenager charged with the murder of 4 students in Michigan have pleaded not guilty to 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter. A judge imposed a combined $1 million bail for James and Jennifer Crumbly hours after police said they had been caught hiding in Detroit. The couple's lawyer has denied they were on the run, but said they had left town for their own safety. Charges were brought against the parents, accusing them of failing to intervene in their son's alleged involvement in the shooting at Oxford High School in Michigan. The Metropolitan Police say that they are considering complaints about alleged Christmas parties at Number 10 last year. Labour backbenchers have written to Scotland Yard asking officers to investigate reports that 2 were held when such gatherings were banned. The Met said that it did not routinely investigate retrospective breaches of the COVID regulations, but it would consider the complaint. Boris Johnson hasn't denied the events took place, but said no rules were broken. Nearly 300 military personnel are being drafted in to assist thousands of homes that are still without power 8 days after Storm Arwen hit the UK. As of early Friday evening, just over 9,000 homes were still cut off. Freezing temperatures are expected in parts of the north of England and Scotland, as well as sleet and rain over the next 24 hours. A vigil has been held in Liverpool city centre in memory of Ava White. Balloons were released at the start of the vigil before people read out messages. Hundreds of people paid their respects to the 12-year-old who was stabbed last Thursday. You are right up to date now. Back to Mark Dolan tonight.
Big response to my guest Helen Gray, who campaigned against COVID passports in central Edinburgh today. Declan says, Mark, thank you so much for giving Helen a voice. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm not long back from York today and it was wonderful and horrific. The most masked place I've ever been to. Everyone's so obedient and conforming to the agenda, easily controlled and almost religious. Truly horrific. Let's have a look at this. Carol says, Mark, another great programme, all groundbreaking, like that of the cake resistance movement. Just hopeful and inspirational news. Thank you again and again. Well, Carol, thank you so much for watching and your positive words. I'll get to more of your thoughts across a range of today's topics shortly. But it's time now for Mark Meets, in which I interview the biggest names in the world of politics, showbiz, academia, sport, music and beyond. I also speak to people who simply have a big story to tell. Now, Christopher Hamill, better known as pop superstar Limahl, was born on the 19th of December, surprisingly, in 1958. How is that possible? Born in Pemberton in Lancashire, attending secondary school in Wigan, he eventually enrolled at the Westcliff-on-Sea Palace Theatre Repertory Company, and he was duly bitten by the showbiz bug. After several TV acting roles, as well as a role in a live production of Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, Limahl began his life-changing career in music. First with a punk band called Vox Deus. No, me neither. I hope I pronounced that right. Followed by a band called Crossword. Then Brooks, with the guy who would go on to form Bucks Fizz, Mike Nolan. But the earth really moved when he answered an advert in the music magazine Melody Maker from a band called Art Nouveau to be their front man. They needed someone who could sing and looked good. Well, Limahl was your man. And that band went on to become Kajagoogoo, and the rest is history. They signed a deal with EMI, and Too Shy was released in January 1983, heading straight to #1 in the UK singles charts and the top 5 of the US Billboard Hot 100. Extraordinary stuff. They had further hits, including Ooh To Be Ah, Hang On Now, and their debut album, White Feathers, which skyrocketed up the charts. Limahl and the band fell out, more on that shortly, but you can't keep a good man down. And he went on to have a fabulous solo career, which continues to this day. He had hits like Only for Love and, of course, the title track of The Never Ending Story. Let's take a listen to that particular banger.
Look at what you see in her face, the mirror of your dream. Make believe I'm everywhere, getting in the light. Listen on the pages, it's the answer to a never-ending story.
Well, let me tell you that his hair continues in all its resplendence, as does his career. He is touring the world to this day and records new music all the time. In fact, he's back right now with the festive single, One Wish for Christmas. He's going up against Elton, against ABBA, and against Sheeran. And I think he's going to win. Take a listen. What a gorgeous tune. One Wish for Christmas is out now, and my wish to meet Limahl has now been achieved. Limahl, welcome to GB News.
Mark, that was a wonderful intro and the longest I think I've ever had.
Well, listen, you've had a long career and you've sold records, you've toured, and the best part about the story is that you're still going.
Yes, it's 39th year anniversary of Too Shy in January.
Amazing.
And 40 years of Never Ending Story in 2 years. I guess that means I've got to plan something for that figure. Yeah. But how is that possible when I'm only 39?
That's right, Wikipedia never lies.
Unfortunately, yeah, you can't just have a publicity, a PR statement anymore. You can't get away with it. You can't lie about your age anymore. It's all out there.
But you look incredible. And we were talking just before we came on air about your barnet, which is resplendent. I mean, that's what it's all about. Rod Stewart said that he's only going to quit music when his hair doesn't stand up anymore.
I suspect that Rod does have a little assistance to get it to stand up, because I have to do the same with mine. It's got thinner over the years, but they invented this amazing thing called straighteners.
That's his history.
This is like hair tips and secrets here.
Yeah. You've got some hot competition this Christmas, but it's a really strong single, One Wish for Christmas. Tell me why you made this record.
On my songwriter bucket list, I always wanted to write a song about Christmas, and I never thought it would happen. I put it off for years. I always wanted to write a song about London. I put that off for years. London I thought would be easier because in America we've got songs about the big cities, you know, LA, New York, San Francisco.
Right, Chicago.
We have the smaller places. We even have San Jose, Amarillo, Galveston, you know. But London, yeah, we could go on. But not that many about London. So a few years ago I met the pianist and singer from the Savoy Hotel in London, John Nicol, really talented musician, and he happened to live around the corner from me, so we just got together one July, and we started writing a Christmas song in July, as you do.
Yes, of course, it takes time.
But being a British summer, it could have been raining that day, I don't know, it could have been autumn.
You were channeling Christmas, right?
Maybe. But, you know, we just talked. It was great because there was no deadline, no pressure, no manager and record company sort of breathing down our necks saying, where's the product, where's the product? And that's a nice way to create.
Yeah.
Just seeing what comes. And it's still exciting to go into a room and an hour later you've got maybe a verse or 8 bars of something that's quite nice. So you go from blank page and you're creating this sort of baby. And of course, you know, hopefully you end up. But every songwriter, every musician out there will tell you there's tons of stuff on the shelf. A verse here, a chorus there. In fact, that's how Noddy Holder's, the Slade record, the big Slade record, Christmas record, Christmas, yeah. They took the record company said, we need an album. The album wasn't ready. Well, give us something for Christmas. So they had a verse, somewhere tucked away. They had a chorus, completely separate ideas.
Amazing.
They changed the keys, you know, sort of worked on the lyrics. It can happen like that. So it doesn't always translate into something, but it's great when it does.
The Beatles did that. Some of their songs were composites of other bits of songs. It goes on all the time. I'm sure you've done that elsewhere in your career.
And you have to save those bits because you just might use them somewhere along the line, you know. And they feel precious to you because you thought of it. It just came into your head. It may have come into your head at first thing in the morning. It may have been in the shower. You know, I've gotten up, you know, I mean, now we have smartphones, but in the old days, I've gotten up and written things down that's come into my head. Or I've got out of bed in the morning and gone, I need to record something really quick. You know, I've got an idea. You just have to grab it while you can.
Were you a musical kid?
Oh, yes. Yeah. In the sense that I escaped in records. It was a council estate in Wigan that I was raised up. My family didn't have a lot of money. I had to work. I had to do the jobs you do as a kid, you know, to save up my 35p to go and buy that vinyl single.
From Our Price, or where did you go?
Oh, it was an independent, imagine, an independent record shop in Pemberton, which you mentioned at the intro.
Yeah.
And I would go in there, I was like a kid in a sweet shop, you know, which record am I going to buy this week? And then on Tuesday and Thursday nights, I would take it down to the youth club. I was 14 or 15. So in that sense, I was crazy about music.
What music were you buying? Can you remember?
Oh, yeah, Motown.
Stevie Wonder?
Jackson 5, Marvin Gaye, Diana Ross and the Supremes, The Temptations, The Four Tops, Martha Reeves and the Vandellas, etc.
Yeah. Have you had a chance to meet any Motown stars?
I was once on a flight with The Temptations. I've had lunch with Diana Ross's lawyer. Does that count?
That's a start. What were you asking for? Were you in trouble?
Well, actually, he was looking after me for a while when I was signed to Arista in New York, but that's another story. Motown stars who I've met. Gosh.
You've met everyone in music, of course.
I've met a lot of people, yeah.
Yeah. Has that been a good thing? Should you meet your heroes?
Yeah. In the right circumstance. Now, I remember when we did our first Top of the Pops, and of course, I was instantly recognisable. And maybe the next morning, I'm leaning over the cheese counter in the local store, and someone taps me on the shoulder and says, "Hey, were you on Top of the Pops last night? Can I have your autograph?" Yeah. You know, you don't want it in those instances, but of course it happens.
Of course it does. I mean, you had this hit. Because the band formed, how long had you actually got together with the other members of Kajagoogoo before the single was released? Just a few months, wasn't it?
No, it was longer than that. It was 2.5 years, and that's why it always tickled me when the media called us an overnight sensation. Yeah. And it seemed like that because that first single going to #1. But oh no, it was a lot of work. A year writing songs. When I met the band, the drummer worked in a birthday card factory. The brilliant bass player, Nick, was a dustbin man.
Amazing.
They call something else now, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. Refuse collector.
Refuse collector.
Yeah, something polite.
Yeah, so, and then slowly we all left our jobs and we're writing these songs. The real moment came when I met Nick Rhodes from Duran Duran, and he helped us with our
He agreed to co-produce the record. And I guess having his name involved fast-tracked it, did it?
That wasn't in the plan. I was working at the Embassy Club in Bond Street. I served him a drink, and I started telling him about my band, Kajagoogoo. And in a later interview, he said he was charmed by my enthusiasm. Of course, I'm just verbal diarrhea going, you know, we're really good, and we've done our demos, and we're looking for a deal, and blah, blah, blah. And just like that, he said, well, send me your songs.
That was remarkably generous of him, wasn't it?
Remarkably generous.
Unusual for the music industry. Wouldn't you say?
Well, I think...
Normally you'd get moved on by some of their security.
Yes, he was with his manager as well at the time, Paul Barrow. I think it's interesting that he was already looking outside of the Duran brand to expand himself as a producer. Because, of course, he co-produced our album, the only album that I made with Kajagoogoo, by the way, as a 5-piece. Remarkable, really, isn't it?
And it was an amazing hit album. A string of singles came out of that album. How did it change your life?
Oh, it changed everything, but in a good way. Imagine, I'm 23. I mean, arriving in London from Wigan was a big deal. Then I'm an extra in the Adam and the Ants video, Stand and Deliver, because the director happens to come to the Embassy Club. You know, there's a lot of networking and sometimes serendipity, being in the right time, the right place. What was your original question?
Well, yeah, but it changed your life. I mean, I guess financially, overnight fame once the single was released. I mean, it's very unusual for a band to have their biggest hit as their first one.
Yeah. Certainly any money didn't come straight away, but it was interesting that EMI Records started sending stretch limousines to pick us up.
How long did you stay at the Embassy Club working? Did you give that up straight away?
I had to, because we were busy, you know. The Embassy Club was a brilliant club. I mean, from the early 80s, you know, 80, 81, 82, everyone talks about Steve Strange's club, the Blitz Club, which I never went to because I was too busy at the Embassy Club. The Embassy Club was just as important.
Was it a private members club?
No, not at all.
No. Was it a casino? What was it?
It was a nightclub. And it just had that sort of clientele. You know, I'd see Lemmy at the fruit machine, getting drunk, losing his money. One night they had to call security because he was literally throwing the machine against the wall like this.
Amazing.
I saw Elton's manager there, John Reed. I saw Bananarama. I saw Gary Newman. Sometimes record companies would have parties there. I remember serving a drink to the singer from Rolls Royce. And I'm just a kid from Wigan, and I'm just lapping it up, and I'm serving champagne to bankers, and it was great. Great times, great memories.
Great times. And of course you had an amazing solo career. I don't like dwelling on the negatives, but you guys did break up in your pomp. What went wrong?
The band were a very kind of artsy, studenty band. And that was the plan. And
you
of course...
pop superstar.
I didn't really have a plan. I just...
Were you more, if we're honest, were you more ambitious than they were?
No, I think they were very hungry, but their destination was very specific. They wanted to be the artsy, and suddenly we became teeny idols. I mean, no one saw that coming, you know. I guess maybe the record company did market us and manipulate us to a certain degree. But when I look back at the old pictures, I think, well, I'm not surprised. You know, we were...
figure.
You know, we
You were a very... I mean, you're a very handsome man. You were a very cute kid.
We were cute kids. And I'll take the compliment, thank you.
Definitely.
At my age. But, you know, that was... They wanted to go somewhere else. And, yeah, maybe they went about it the wrong way. Maybe we should. It would have been different if we'd had a better manager.
Were you difficult? Were you an awkward customer?
Not at all.
Were you a pain in the arse to work with?
I was not a pain in the arse. I've never.
Diva?
No, I never had any. I'm not a diva. I never had any diva strokes. I was a vegetarian. I cared about animals, and I certainly cared about people. And I loved the band. I loved them. It was a total shock out of the blue.
And it could have been devastating, except for the fact that you are a survivor and you bounced back with a solo career, and immediately the hits came again. So that must have been very gratifying. You must have thought, OK, I've got another chance, another crack at this.
There's some luck in that, Mark. You know, no one was interested in the 80s for most of the 90s. And then in 1998, one of the first compilation 80s albums came out, and it went to number one. When people bought CDs.
Wow.
You know?
Those were the days.
And then they started 80s nights on radio stations and 80s events. And suddenly the phone started ringing. So I've been working live, doing 80s, usually 80s related. But of course I can sing other songs. You know, I love jazz, and I don't do rock, and I don't do rap.
Bit of soul though, bit of Motown.
Bit of soul, bit of Motown. But, you know, since around 98, 99, I've been working around the world.
Well, you're a one-man brand. You're one of the first artists to be known by his sole name of Limahl. You know, you're an iconic figure of the 80s.
I've got to 63, almost 63.
Amazing.
I'm 63 this month. And it's weird because I brought out my first recording in 2019 after the big American TV shows used Too Shy first, and then Never Ending Story and Stranger Things.
Yeah, on Netflix.
American Horror Story used Too Shy. And they actually had Kajagoogoo in the plot, and they had an actor playing me. And of course, this has introduced audiences to the music, and social media has kind of, you know, played a part in that. And it's all been, and so I released my first new recording. I thought, okay, well, I'll see if anyone's interested. In 2020, I released my first single, Still in Love. And the reviews were incredible. And they were saying words like legend, superstar, pop star, icon. And I'm reading this and I'm thinking, well, if I knew this was going to come, I would have just waited patiently.
Yeah.
It's really weird. I got to 60 and I sort of get some cred points for getting to 60. And they are using these words, and I'll gladly accept them. They're very nice. I don't use those words. My mum does in Wigan.
And what's fantastic is that you reunited with Kajagoogoo, yourself and Nick Beggs, who you mentioned. So you're on really good terms, and you've recorded and performed together since.
Yeah, that was 10 years ago in 2008, 9, 10. We did a little tour. And that was interesting, you know, coming back with another perspective. And then it ended, and we've all gone off and done our separate projects. People on social media are saying, will it happen again? And I just say never. I don't know. I think Nick has a big part to play in that. You know, he kind of ended the reunion. He said, that's it, I've had enough, one day. If that's how we felt, that's fine. I don't think anyone did anything to upset him. I just, you know.
Well, more's the pity, but I'm sure a reunion will be in the offing. But either way, history tells us that you don't need the band. You are a brand in your own right, and people buy your records, they buy tickets to your shows. How can people find out more about your work?
Yeah, easiest thing is go to limahl.com, where you can link to me on social media. And everything else that's going on.
Well, I'm properly starstruck. It's a privilege to have you in the studio. Limahl, the man, the legend, the myth. The single is out now. It's a Christmas #1, let me tell you. Elton's quaking in his boots.
Yeah!
It is called One Wish for Christmas. So give it a stream, give it a listen. Buy a copy if you can, if you want to be old school. I feel very excited to have a CD here. Brilliant stuff. My sincere thanks to Limahl. Limahl, do come back and see us again soon. Coming up, is China going to own the world in years to come? We'll discuss this and more in the news agenda with my panel. But coming up next in FAQs, frequently asked questions, we'll find out about a remarkable artist who paints Christmas cards with his mouth and feet. Tom Yendell. Can't wait for that. First up, the weather.
It's time to remind ourselves there's always another winter. Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Looking ahead to tomorrow's weather, and the UK is looking rather windy and chilly at first, with wintry showers, especially in the east. Let's now take a look at the details. It'll be a rather cold and very windy start in the southwest. There'll be scattered showers, some heavy, and turning wintry over the high ground of the moors. A chilly start with strong, gusty winds for all areas. It'll be cloudy with outbreaks of rain, possibly bringing a little sleet over the hills. Remaining very windy and cold in Wales with some clear skies. There'll be scattered showers at times, these wintry over the higher ground. It'll be mostly cloudy in the northwest at first. The odd shower is possible, again turning wintry over high ground. It'll be very windy, especially near to the coast, and feeling cold. Starting with showers and longer spells of rain in the northeast on Sunday morning, this bringing sleet or hill snow at times. A cold and rather windy start for all. It'll be a cold, clear and locally frosty start with a risk of some early icy patches. Cloudier conditions towards Edinburgh with a little rain or hill snow possible. There will be a mixture of showers and clear spells at first for Northern Ireland. The showers possibly wintry at times. It will be rather windy and feeling cold. Wintry showers will persist in the east, remaining drier in the west. Windy in the south, but winds easing in the north.
Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
You're watching GB News live across the UK and the world on our digital stream.
GB News is Britain's news channel.
We are the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
We are here for you. Don't forget to join our YouTube community by clicking on that subscribe button.
And if you want the GB News app, you can click and catch up on programmes anytime.
We love to hear from you, so email us.
gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Thanks for being part of the GB News family.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Colin Brazier. I've reported from more than 70 countries around the world, covered wars from Afghanistan to Iraq, from Lebanon to the Balkans. I'm trying to bring that experience, that feel for events, to the studio. And something else, I'm ready to give an opinion. Today's stories with a spark. Brazier from 8 p.m. weekdays on GB News.
We'll catch up with the latest in the world of Hollywood and showbiz with Kinsey Schofield live from California at 11 o'clock. Plus, my panel will be reacting to the big stories of the day, and I've got tomorrow's newspaper front pages. But it's time now for FAQs, frequently asked questions, in which we take a deep dive into a topic in or around the news. Tonight, it won't have escaped your attention that Christmas is coming, and it's about time to get thinking about writing your Christmas cards. And the amazing artists Tom Yendell and Basil West are proud members of the Mouth and Foot Painting Artists Association. And they've been hard at work on their own amazing Christmas cards for the season. Truly stunning stuff. Now, Tom was born without limbs due to thalidomide, and Basil was paralysed from the neck down after a car crash, but it has not held them back, quite the opposite. These cards are, of course, the perfect Christmas gift and a great platform for their fabulous art and amazing talent. I'm delighted to say Tom joins me now. Hi, Tom.
Hello, how are you?
I'm really well. Congratulations on this range of Christmas cards. How long have you been painting?
I've been painting all my life. I learned when I was very young, and I was encouraged by a guy called Peter Spencer, who was a mouth and foot painting artist just after the Second World War. He lived next to my auntie in Liverpool, and when he had heard that I was born with no arms, he said, get to my parents, get Tom painting, get Tom drawing, because there's a career in it. And 40 years later, I'm still painting. Toes don't work as well as they used to, but I do everything from my in life with my feet, whether it's brushing my teeth in the morning, or driving my car, or using my wallet on my ankle. So feet are really useful bits of kit, actually. And I think as you get older, being able to pick stuff off the floor and put it onto a chair or something with your foot is a lot easier than having to bend all the way down and pick it up with your hands.
Absolutely. And in terms of the craft of your art, what do you use your feet for and what do you use your mouth for? What's the difference in painting with the mouth?
That's a really good question. I am really unusual because our association, the Mouth and Foot Painting Artists, we have about 800 artists around the world that make their living from their painting. And actually only about 6 of us that paint with both the mouth and foot. The majority of our artists have got their injuries, disabilities, or uniqueness later on in life, through accident or through illness. But personally, I think your mouth is a lot more precise. Your head is an incredibly, mechanical piece of engineering, and you can get some great lines using your mouth. But your foot is a bit more less precise. The thing with mouth painting is you work up quite close, so you don't see a lot of the canvas at one time. Whereas when you're using your foot to paint with, you can see the whole thing. And some of the canvases I paint are, a metre wide, so they're quite big.
And you've made a career out of being an artist. When did the Christmas cards ideas happen? When did that come along?
Well, I joined the Mouth and Foot Painters in 1986, and it's our business. Our main business of the year as an association is selling our Christmas cards at Christmas and our wrapping paper and books. And so we're a bit like the fashion industry, really, in the fact that we're starting to think about our designs for next year already, and we're already painting. We paint Christmas cards all year round, really. We have a spring pack with birthday cards and Easter cards and things like that. People can go on the website and find them on there and help this amazing organisation, because it's one of the largest self-help groups for people with disabilities in the world.
Well, I think it's wonderful, and I'll make sure that we give out the details at the end of our chat. You work with Baza West, who has had a different journey to mouth and foot painting, given the fact that he was in an accident. So I guess he's had to learn this skill in a different way to you.
Yeah, and I'm always amazed that we find new artists like Barry that have had a car accident or have had a diving and rugby. Are two of the big accidents that we find our young male artists have. And Barry was a landscape gardener. He was a 19-year-old guy. Really fit, very handsome, and he swerved his car to miss a badger on the road and hit a tree and broke his neck in 2 different places. And it just inspires me that somebody can go from not being, artistic really, to a guy now who paints absolutely fantastic images. And actually, we see that time and time again with our association. And I'm a real believer that we all have a talent of some kind. It might not be painting. It might be, singing or music or dance or poetry or writing. And sometimes, we don't find that talent until we retire. And, people retire at 65 and then they go and join a local art club down in their local village hall. And they become really good at it. And they suddenly think, why didn't I do this sooner? So I think it's really important that we all get out there, no matter what we're doing in life. We get out there and we try different things.
Are there any limitations to the artwork that can be produced by the foot or the mouth?
I think we have a go at anything, really, but sculpture is quite difficult. But we do have guys that sculpt with their mouth. In fact, indeed, our founding father, Eric Stegman, he used to sculpt portraits from 3D sculptures from wax, and he used to use a spatula in his mouth and chisel the wax out and make these amazing sculptures. I've had a go at doing some metal work, and I have a nephew who was a welder, so he came and showed me how to use a welding gun with my foot. But yeah, we have artists all over the world that do ceramics, they do mosaic, I paint on silk. So the whole sort of gambit of different artistic abilities. Being just one artist, just painting with one item, like painting acrylic or oils, can be really quite boring. So it's really important that if you are an artist, you try as many different mediums as you can.
Tom, you're an amazing artist. It's been such a thrill to have you on the show. Let me tell our viewers, because I'm sure that many watching haven't organised their Christmas cards yet. Simply go to mfpa.uk. That's right, mfpa.uk. It stands for the Mouth and Foot Painting Artists Association. But if you write mouth and foot painting, you'll definitely get their website. Tom, thank you so much for joining us, the amazingly talented Tom Yandell. Brilliant stuff. Well, lots more to come. In Uncensored USA, we'll head to the Hollywood Hills and Kinsey Schofield. Could Alec Baldwin go to jail for the tragic accident that happened on a film set? And will Meghan Markle be empowered by her latest legal verdict? But up next, is China going to own the world in years to come? We'll discuss that and more with my panel in the news agenda. See you shortly.
You're watching GB News live across the UK and the world on our digital stream.
GB News is Britain's news channel.
We are the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
We are here for you. Don't forget to join our YouTube community by clicking on that subscribe button.
And if you want the GB News app, you can click and catch up on programmes anytime.
We love to hear from you, so email us.
gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Thanks for being part of the GB News family.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Colin Brazier. I've reported from more than 70 countries around the world, covered wars from Afghanistan to Iraq, from Lebanon to the Balkans. I'm trying to bring that experience, that feel for events, to the studio. And something else, I'm ready to give an opinion. Today's stories with a spark. Brazier from 8 p.m. weekdays on GB News.
On the Mouth and Face Painters, Carol has written into the show. Hi, Carol. Thank you for your email. Carol says, "Dear Mark, how humbling this is to see these amazing guys." And Declan says, on Tom Yandell, who I've just interviewed, another amazing guest. Thank you once again for giving this amazing man a voice. GB News never fails to amaze me with your guests. Well, it's down to my amazing team who book these fabulous guests. And I must say, we really couldn't do it without them. Couldn't do it without my panel either, who are reacting to the big stories of the day. Top sports broadcaster Aidan McGee, best-selling author, lawyer and presenter Rebecca Jane, and journalist and good friend of the show, commentator Connor Tomlinson. New devolution plans could see so-called local governors in an effort for communities to take back control. The plan is part of Housing Secretary Michael Gove's levelling up agenda and the Prime Minister's push for devolved leadership. As part of the ambitious plans, local leaders will be given greater powers, which areas with at least 500,000 people gaining even more control over housing, health and transport. But one of the more controversial moves is the proposal of governors in areas where mayors would not be appropriate. It's very much an American idea, the governor. And whilst there have reportedly been tensions about how far the proposals should go, the government appears to have embraced the concept of these governors. But is the government becoming too central with its so-called levelling up? What do we think about this? Aidan, do you think we need more power locally?
No, I don't. I mean, I remember when... I'm old enough to remember the GLC back in the 80s.
The loony left in London.
Yeah, now it gets hijacked. That's the problem. I mean, I'm not saying that happens in every single incarnation of what we're talking about here, but it was shut down. Nobody said a word for 16 years. It was shut down about 84 or maybe 86. No one said a word for 14 years. We did not need a mayor, and then suddenly, from nowhere, in the late 90s, we get Frank Dobson. Susan Kramer was the Lib Dem candidate. We get Ken Livingstone. He wins it by a street. And then I think London has kind of regressed a little bit in that period. We see it's another layer of government, it's another layer of red tape, a layer of bureaucracy. London's a very difficult place to live now. It's quite stifling even just to get around it.
The crime's not great?
The crime's not great. I mean, it's gone up exponentially since 2014. I mean, I'm not saying all these things couldn't have happened had we not, or wouldn't have happened if we hadn't had a mayor, but I don't see what good the mayor.
Do you think it's just another layer of bureaucracy?
Yeah, and I think a lot of it's talk as well. If we're serious about levelling up, and I do a lot of business all around the country, got a lot of money invested in different regions, OK? And I do business with people, and I speak to people, and I spend time among everyone who lives. Some of them don't even come to London. Yeah. If you're serious about levelling up, you've got to create meaningful, gainful employment in those areas. It's no good having regional development agencies, more layers of government. It's the market that's going to restore these places, and they are great places, some of the places I'm talking about, to what they were. That's the only way to do it. When you see companies like AstraZeneca going to Manchester, for example, and creating jobs, the expertise is in those areas anyway, because the top universities are there. Some of the top universities, you've got Manchester, Liverpool, Leeds, York, places like that. You know, so those people don't really want to move to London. They only move into London because that's where the work is. Austin Mitchell, the MP for Grimsby, said about 10 years ago, he said, London is sucking the life out of the rest of the country. It's absolutely true.
Yeah, that's really interesting, isn't it? I mean, what's your thought, Rebecca? Do you think that we should have local governors? I mean, you certainly have devolved power in America in their great states, and that seems to work quite well.
Well, I don't think there's many things in America that work very well, so I'm not up for that either. But personally, I just think that what is happening with our government is that, first and foremost, it's yet another way of adding more layers when we should be trying to simplify. And I think that it's going to cost an absolute fortune to do it in this way. And I think that the amount of money that we waste with our government, and it's another way as well for them to be distancing themselves. And I think that the only thing that's probably going to end up being left for Boris and all the people that are in Westminster is fancy lunches. But essentially, my main problem is that obviously with what happened with COVID and the way that they brought in new laws and how, you know, I'm somebody that was educated in law. I spent 6 years in law school, and the first thing that they teach you when you start law school is how our laws in our country are made and how hard it is to get them passed. And what happened last year, and the biggest problem that I have with it, is how they just passed laws within a breath. And, you know, it kind of felt like Boris and his little friends had one too many drinks at night time, and essentially by 9 o'clock they just brought in a new one. So I think that no matter what this country is saying that they want to do, I have no faith in anything whatsoever. And again, I think that this is just another thing to be baffling the nation with.
But does it not bring accountability? I mean, we talked about rising crime in London. We've got someone to blame, and that's the mayor, Sadiq Khan.
He's not accountable, though, has he?
Well, I suppose he would be at the election, although because London is so firmly Labour, perhaps he's got a job for life. But then you have Andy Burnham in Greater Manchester, who spoke up for his community during the pandemic, particularly when it came to funding in his region, and he won a battle with the Prime Minister there.
Well, he did, but at the end of the day as well, I'm not really big into the whole blame culture, because I just think that everybody needs to take responsibility somewhere, and I think that there's too much passing of the buck as it is already. So this is just another way for them to do it, and I just don't think that it's ever going to... I think that there's a complete no-win situation regardless, so I don't think that this is going to give us any solutions to any of our problems.
Well,
anyway.
Connor, this is arguably more democracy. What's not to like?
I think there's a lot not to like with more democracy if you're talking about voter apathy, because I'm actually in Bexley, and they just had the Sycamore and Bexley by-election. If you look at the voter turnout, it's about a third, and it was mainly the Conservatives stayed at home. You've got a lot of disaffectedness among the base. There's not a lot of passion left after Boris passed a lot of laws. But if you had another run in the bureaucratic ladder and say, OK, you've got to vote for this guy again, we're going to pass it down the chain, rather than devolving to a local expertise by giving more power to councillors and parishes that already exist, if Gove wants to smuggle in some sort of electoral reform and get more people on the ballot for his specific party, which I predicted kind of would happen, funnily enough, last time I was on the show when we talked about cabinet reshuffle.
Yeah.
I think that's a massive shake-up. It's going to have a lot of cost, as you said, and I don't think it's going to be particularly useful for the electorate.
That's a good point as well. The councils are already there. We have votes every 4 years or whatever. We have local elections. We had them last summer. If they're already there, what are they
What
doing?
more is it going to do?
And of course, as you mentioned, poor turnout was an issue in the 80s, which is why those local authorities were so unaccountable and taken over by extremists. So
exactly.
I guess we've got short memories, haven't we? Lots of emails coming in on this one. Adrian says, "Dear Mark, give me your local councillors any day before MPs and these mayors. Local politics does a lot better for the people. We don't need governors. It will be jobs for the Tories, and they will try to take over locally." I'm against devolution, says Elliot, as it just creates more arguments, self-interest and bureaucracy. This all costs more money, a point made by Aidan, slows down decision-making. We have MPs and councillors already. Khan is terrible in London and blames the government for all issues in the capital. You say Burnham did well, but I don't think he did. He just disagreed with Boris at every turn as a Labour man. Turnout is always extremely low and no one cares. Damning verdict there from Elliot. I do love getting your emails. Keep them coming. Mark at gbnews.uk. Now, putting an end to the Queen's 55-year-long role as its head of state, Barbados this week became a republic. But more significantly, as well as losing a monarch, the West Indian island gained an emperor, the Chinese strongman leader for life, Xi Jinping. The 287,000 people who live in Barbados are just the latest pawns in the sights of the Beijing regime as part of its unwavering policy of world domination. Beijing reportedly gifted the new island republic £400 million to improve the country's homes, infrastructure and to build a hotel. In his fascinating Daily Mail article, the brilliant journalist Edward Lucas explained how China has begun filling the gap as Britain's global influence dwindles. Through its appeasement, economic investment, China utilises the fact that poorer nations will most likely default on their loans, effectively making them beholden to the communist state and enabling China to grow its totalitarian empire. It was no coincidence this week, in a highly unusual intervention, the head of MI6, Richard Moore, delivered a razor-edged warning about what he said are debt traps and data traps that China is laying around the world. So what do we think about this, Connor? Do you think we'll just wake up one day in the future and realise that China own the world?
Well, it is a two-pronged issue. So, first of all, China are kind of a crouching paper tiger. Not a lot of people realise that about 25% of their population works in agriculture, but they're still a net grain importer, for example. They haven't recovered from the one-child policy. Their population's only rebounded to the Great Famine level of 1961. They've got an ageing population. And their debt level's the same as the United States, but they haven't got nearly the same GDP because they set up a lot of ghost corporations. Example, they're meant to be the electric car giant, right? So when Tesla got the contract to build a thing in Shanghai, the 100 companies that had supposedly been developing prototypes hadn't developed a single prototype by the time Tesla moved into China. So they're all just shell corporations that the government sets up to then offshore money and deflate their currency. The problem is we are currently losing that Cold War in energy security and resource scarcity because we're allowing them to imperialistically expand with their Belt and Road program, which is this loan program, into other countries. The reason they need to do that is a bit like Hitler did with Lebensraum, of where they're extracting all of their materials, but it's not a sustainable way. So they need to poach them from other countries and drain them dry. If we're looking to, with our renewables policy, for example, be reliant on their 80% of battery manufacturing capacity every year, and they just seized all the lithium from Afghanistan that we left in a complete state. If we're doing things like that, we are going to lose to China. All of our policies could be much better, and it could be very avoidable, because China are currently shooting themselves in the foot at a rate of knots as well. But so are we. And if we want to suicide faster, then China's just going to come out on top.
And does Boris's eco-agenda, does that play into China's hands?
Absolutely. This is one of the main things I'm actually writing about this week, is looking at a carbon tax. You want to level a carbon tax across borders. It has to be border adjusted so that if you level it in here, we're not at a disadvantage from other countries that don't do it and we just lose out on tax revenue. And it also has to be revenue neutral at home, so you don't get the yellow vest, for example, when people's fuel prices go up and you're just taxing the poor out of house and home. If you want to tax pollution, that's fine, but do it with an income tax cut. But if you do that overseas, a lot of poor countries that need goods like steel and high carbon stuff like coal, because they haven't made the jump to renewables, they haven't got the infrastructure yet, they need that stuff. They're either going to come to us, or they're going to go to China for the cheap Chinese steel, and they're going to rely on their loans. So we've got to be careful that our economic policies don't price out, and environmental policies rather, don't price out the third world when they're trying to develop from catching up to us, just because we've got this dead green agenda mindset. And again, we're going to be suiciding our economy, much to China's gain.
So, Rebecca, Britain obsesses over its imperialist history, just as China colonises the world.
Well, you well and truly lost me there.
We're tearing down statues and, self-flagellating about our past. Meanwhile, China are doing exactly the same thing, if not worse.
Well, for me, I think that whilst we've been too busy becoming woke and all the rest of it, China have been too busy taking over the world, and they are going to do that. I just don't understand where we would win in this game. It feels for me like it's already happened and it's going to get worse. And I don't know what on earth we do. And the best bit is that rather than us actually buying British and all the rest of it, we're still giving all of our money to China anyway. So we're just helping it along.
And we're not exploiting wonderful energy resources in this country, like shale gas, for example. And now we know that Nicola Sturgeon isn't interested in exploring for North Sea oil.
Well, if we use 10% of the reserves, it'd cover us for 50 years. And we've got carbon capture technology. So the commitment to only renewables, most of the time they don't generate enough grid inertia to keep the grid stable. They don't generate nearly enough as what's used to make all the materials and that. And we're getting most of the materials from China anyway. When we could be carbon capturing that and having a clean source, same with nuclear. We could be working with the Japanese and the Koreans on those plans rather than financing everything from China. It doesn't particularly make any sense to me. The only thing I will say is the sort of cultural wokeism thing is often been compared to Mao's Cultural Revolution. That's very specific because the USSR, I don't know if anyone's heard of Yuri Bezmenov, but he was an ex-KGB agent, and he said, we used subversion tactics to demoralise the West during the Cold War. Ultimately, they ran out of money. We're kind of hoping China does the same, but if we keep financing them, they're not going to. China's bought up a lot of our university academics. One of my friends, Georgia Gilholly, has done a piece on this.
Oh, yeah.
They've
Public
got it
schools?
in MIT. Yeah.
Public schools,
It's in Oxford, it's in Cambridge. They're saying, we're going to change the
And of course, we know that the origins of COVID-19 are from China. Not clear under what circumstances. Might have been a lab leak. It might have been deliberate. Could have been a natural accident. But either way, China look like they've won the pandemic as well, Aidan.
Yeah, it looks like it. I mean, it clearly came from there. I don't think anyone would dispute that. Yeah, there seems to be a real discomfort among the political classes to blame China for that. We saw Richard Bergen in the week defending China, not necessarily on the pandemic, but he was talking about evidence of Chinese racism because people in this country have spoken up about Chinese aggression, Chinese dominance. We've seen the WTA in tennis recently with the incident a couple of weeks ago. Peng Shuai, the tennis player, just went missing.
Disappeared.
There is a slight move towards resisting that aggression. The WTA have decided to pull out of a few tournaments, but we must also remember that there's precedent for this as well. We think about how the US armed Iran back in the 80s to fight against Iraq. I mean, I think that's probably worse than anything that's happened right now. They're just doing it in a smarter way.
Well, look, lots more to come from my very smart panel. In the news agenda in the final hour, should catcalling be banned? Also, will there be a post-pandemic surge in religion? A prickly future for hedgehogs, and also seat rage on public transport. So much to get through. But after this, it's US Showbiz with Kinsey. So we'll see you shortly.
It's time to remind ourselves there's always another winter. Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Looking ahead to tomorrow's weather, and the UK is looking rather windy and chilly at first, with wintry showers, especially in the east. Let's now take a look at the details. It'll be a rather cold and very windy start in the southwest. There'll be scattered showers, some heavy, and turning wintry over the high ground of the moors. A chilly start with strong, gusty winds for all areas. It'll be cloudy with outbreaks of rain, possibly bringing a little sleet over the hills. Remaining very windy and cold in Wales with some clear skies. There'll be scattered showers at times, these wintry over the higher ground. It'll be mostly cloudy in the northwest at first. The odd shower is possible, again turning wintry over high ground. It'll be very windy, especially near to the coast, and feeling cold. Starting with showers and longer spells of rain in the northeast on Sunday morning, this bringing sleet or hill snow at times. A cold and rather windy start for all. It'll be a cold, clear and locally frosty start with a risk of some early icy patches. Cloudier conditions towards Edinburgh with a little rain or hill snow possible. There will be a mixture of showers and clear spells at first for Northern Ireland. The showers possibly wintry at times. It will be rather windy and feeling cold. Wintry showers will persist in the east, remaining drier in the west. Windy in the south, but winds easing in the north.
Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
You're watching GB News live across the UK and the world on our digital stream.
GB News is Britain's news channel.
We are the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
We are here for you. Don't forget to join our YouTube community by clicking on that subscribe button.
And if you want the GB News app, you can click and catch up on programmes anytime.
We love to hear from you, so email us.
gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Thanks for being part of the GB News family.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilized conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Colin Brazier. I've reported from more than 70 countries around the world, covered wars from Afghanistan to Iraq, from Lebanon to the Balkans. I'm trying to bring that experience, that feel for events, to the studio. And something else, I'm ready to give an opinion. Today's stories with a spark. Brazier from 8 p.m. weekdays on GB News.
A very busy last hour of the show to come. My colleague Cal has brought in the front pages. I'll get reaction in just a couple of minutes. Plus, we'll be heading to Hollywood, California for Showbiz News with the Queen of US Royal and Showbiz reporting, Kinsey Schofield, and another instalment of the Great British Game Show, a fun game based around a news story of the day. Tonight, it's celebrity haircuts. We're calling it Wish You Were Hair. You're not going to miss that one, are you? But first up, the headlines with Karen.
Thank you, Mark. These are your latest headlines. The Health Secretary says all international arrivals to the UK will again be required to take pre-departure COVID-19 tests. The rule applies to all travellers entering the UK regardless of vaccination status. It'll come into force next Tuesday at 4 a.m. Nigeria will also be added to the travel red list from Monday morning, joining 10 other African countries. Only UK and Irish citizens and residents who are travelling from Nigeria will be allowed entry and must isolate in a government-approved hotel for 10 days. Meanwhile, a further 25 cases of the Omicron variant have been confirmed in England. This brings the total number of confirmed cases to 160 across the whole of the United Kingdom. The parents of a teenager charged with the murder of 4 students in Michigan have pleaded not guilty to 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter. A judge imposed a combined $1 million bail for James and Jennifer Crumbly hours after police said they had been caught hiding in Detroit. The couple's lawyer has denied they were on the run, but said they had left town for their own safety. Charges were brought against the parents, accusing them of failing to intervene in their son's alleged involvement in the shooting at Oxford High School in Michigan. The Metropolitan Police say they are considering complaints about alleged Christmas parties at number 10 last year. Labour backbenchers have written to Scotland Yard asking officers to investigate reports that 2 were held when such gatherings were banned. The Met said that it did not routinely investigate retrospective breaches of the COVID regulations, but it would consider the complaint. Boris Johnson hasn't denied the events took place, but said no rules were broken. Nearly 300 military personnel are being drafted in to assist thousands of homes that are still without power 8 days after Storm Arwen hit the UK. As of Friday evening, just over 9,000 homes were still cut off. Freezing temperatures are expected in parts of the north of England and Scotland, as well as sleet and rain over the next 24 hours. A vigil has been held in Liverpool city centre in memory of Ava White. Balloons were released at the start of the vigil before people read out messages. Hundreds of people paid their respects to the 12-year-old who was stabbed last Thursday. You are right up to date now. Back to Mark Dolan tonight.
Lots of responses to our conversation about China. This one from Jackie. Jackie, thanks for your email to mark@gbnews.uk. Hi, Mark. I don't understand why successive leaders of the West have underestimated China's insidious creep into all aspects of our lives, energy, infrastructure in the African nations and computer components, which sit silently and sinisterly quiet for now. The West needs to wake up and push back. Well, Jackie, I couldn't agree with you more. It's 4 minutes past 11. Uncensored USA in a moment, but first, this. Yes, at this time every night, we bring you the first look at tomorrow's front pages, hot off the presses. Let's start with the Sunday Express. And here's what the Express are leading with. Simply the best mother. Prince William's touching childhood memories of Diana in intimate chat. Prince William has spoken movingly about how he and his mother would sing along to Tina Turner's Simply the Best to calm his anxiety before boarding school. I've got to say that there isn't a day that goes by that I don't reflect on the legacy of Princess Diana, because many people destroy the royal family, somehow that she was a precursor to Meghan Markle. The opposite's the case. She was the template for modern royalty. So elegant, so graceful, so authentic, so honest, and she is so missed. OK, let's get to our next paper now, and let's take a look at The Observer. And The Observer are leading with this story. Johnson faces trust crisis as sleaze shatters faith in MPs. Shock poll reveals huge public cynicism. Just 5% say MPs work for the public good. I've got to say, I'm not buying this. I'm not having this story, because I think what matters to you and what matters to me is your home, your family, the safety of the streets, our borders, and, of course, the economy and the pound in your pocket. And I'm going to be focusing in the weeks and months to come in what is very clearly a cost of living crisis. And that's going to be my focus, as I say, on this show for the foreseeable future. Inflation, wages, it's all up for debate. Now let's head to the Sunday Mail in Scotland. Always remember enjoying that paper when I lived north of the border. And let's have a look at what they are saying. Our axed vax can beat Omicron. Boris Johnson has been accused of playing politics with a Scottish coronavirus vaccine that could beat the new Omicron variant. We can reveal, say the paper, how the drug made by Livingston-based Valneva is effective against the new strain. But the UK government cancelled a £1 billion contract last year. Clearly, that story is going to run and run. Let's get to our next story now in The Telegraph. And The Telegraph are leading with COVID pill to be rolled out before Christmas. First home treatment offered to vulnerable as Omicron forces return of pre-flight tests. I start my week by rocking out to AC/DC, says Prince William, hopefully not in that waterproof jacket that he's wearing and the flat cap. The Duke of Cambridge has revealed that he listens to rock music to get ready for the week. He told Apple's Time to Talk series, which encourages people to take a stroll to help their well-being, that he loves AC/DC, but his children prefer Shakira. Who knew? I thought it was classical music. You learn a new thing every day. Let's have a look at our next paper and let's go to the Sunday People. Change the law for little Arthur. Plea for action. Paula Hudgell-Wright is calling for a child abuse register after the horrific death of 6-year-old Arthur Labinjo Hughes. OK, a tragic story, that one, and we'll return to that shortly. But let's get to the Sunday Mirror now. Our loved ones died whilst Number 10 partied. Ultimate insult, says brother of woman, 43, killed by COVID. Grieving families hit out at Number 10 yesterday for throwing a party as COVID killed their loved ones. Alan Sadler, whose sister Elaine died at the age of 43, said it's the ultimate insult. And Jackie Green, who lost Mum Beryl at the age of 86, said their behaviour is a slap in the face. Well, it does seem to be an example, doesn't it, of one rule for them and another for us, which has been a theme of the pandemic. Sunday Times, doctors' anger as unjabbed fill emergency beds. Top consultant, cancer ops are being delayed, he says. An exclusive, the Prime Minister orders a national inquiry into the murder of Arthur Labinjo Hughes. And Prince Charles, I will help police with investigation into billionaire donors' honour. Prince Charles has said he's prepared to speak to detectives from Scotland Yard about evidence that his aide fixed an honour for a Saudi billionaire. How unusual for a British royal to actually speak to the police when requested. Anything's possible. Let's have a look at The Independent. Top Tories tell Patel to overhaul asylum system, allow migrants to claim refuge abroad to end deaths in the Channel. Senior Tories have demanded a radical overhaul of the asylum system to allow migrants to claim refuge at UK embassies anywhere in the world, rather than having to travel to the UK. This in a bid to cut the numbers attempting dangerous Channel crossings. Former Cabinet members David Davis and Andrew Mitchell, who has been a guest on this particular programme, are among those calling for the change. Writing for The Independent, Tory MP Pauline Latham said allowing migrants to claim asylum at embassies was the only viable alternative to end deaths in the Channel and the chaos of our current approach. Well, chaos is the operative word. Last but not least, the Daily Star Sunday. Ginola, I raised the dead. I'm a celeb exclusive. Star spoke to spirits at séance. I'm a Celebrity star David Ginola reckons he communicated with a ghost during a séance. The French football legend contacted a mate's gran and she slammed a table down. There you go. And if you believe that, you'll believe anything. Those are your papers. But now this. Yes, it's time for Uncensored, in which we tackle the dark underbelly of the news agenda. Tonight, let's head to the Hollywood Hills in California and the queen of US royal and showbiz reporting, Kinsey Schofield. Hi, Kinsey.
Hi, Mark. So good to see you. I'm so glad you're feeling better.
I'm feeling much better. I'm in full voice, let me tell you. And I'm delighted because I've got so much to ask you, Kinsey. Let's talk about Alec Baldwin. Of course, tragically, his director of photography was accidentally shot dead on the set of his latest film. He's given an interview and he has revealed more.
Described it as a 1 in a trillion shot, and the gun was in your hand. How do you come to terms with that? It wasn't in the script for the trigger to be pulled.
Well, the trigger wasn't pulled. I didn't pull the trigger.
So you never pulled the trigger?
No. I would never point a gun at anyone and pull a trigger at them, never.
What's odd about that interview is it looks like a movie in its own right, Kinsey.
Well, and of course, he found like the biggest cheerleader for anybody on the left, George Stephanopoulos, who used to work in the Clinton White House, former Clinton staffer who became a talking head, who became a Good Morning America anchor. So he found somebody that was going to completely champion him throughout the interview. But yeah, he claims that he did not pull the trigger. Investigators will be able to tell us what exactly happened with that gun, and we know that gun is in their possession. But this interview kind of ticked off the Santa Fe County DA, who says, you know, Alec Baldwin can go on TV all he wants, but he's not in the clear yet. You know, she's looking at what people did and did not do in this specific case. And I say did not do because I'm sure you heard of George Clooney criticizing Alec Baldwin over the fact that he did not check the gun. And Alec Baldwin definitely was hostile about that in this ABC interview. But the DA is going to look at the fact that perhaps he didn't check the gun. And if he did not check the gun and that's something that should be done, you know, is he at fault? So Alec Baldwin blamed everybody but God himself for this incident throughout the interview. Then came back from his social media sabbatical to thank his wife and to celebrate his wife and his family. The comments all, some positive, but most of the comments saying, you know, there is another family that's left brokenhearted. You know, you could at least acknowledge her family. So was just, I don't know what oh, I'm sorry.
Well, I didn't want to interrupt you, but has it raised eyebrows, Kinsey, that he's made these comments whilst an investigation is ongoing?
Obviously, yes, sir, absolutely. And you know why? It just feels like this is totally just him trying to clean his PR slate. That I watched the interview in its entirety, and he goes on to complain, saying like, oh, you know, this was the first time in a long time I was really loving making movies. It was a pity party, and I don't have any idea who advised him as to, you know, as to do this. But he was defiant. He was, you know, he refused to acknowledge that he had anything to do with this, says he does not feel guilty, that somebody is to blame for this, but it is not him. And I almost wonder if this interview will bite him in the butt with the Santa Fe County DA, and if, you know, this inevitably might haunt him, because this did nothing positive towards his, you know, public persona, and I don't think it did anything positive in regards to this investigation that's ongoing.
Well, yes, I mean, whatever happens, however this tragic story plays out, his career's over, isn't it?
He's just such an icon. You know, I'm not an Alec Baldwin fan, but I will say that he's got that name, Alec Baldwin. One of my favorite movies, It's Complicated, with him, Stephen Martin and Alec Baldwin. I don't want to say his career is over because he just has one of those names, and Hollywood is one of the most forgiving industries in the world, as you know. But I do think that he needs to take a step back.
Yeah, for sure. Now, Kinsey, Thomas Markle told Dan Wootton in their exclusive interview on GB News that he did not think that the senior royal, Prince Charles, was racist, and that if he did ask about Archie's complexion, that it was simply an innocent comment. You spoke to the author of Brothers and Wives, Christopher Anderson, yesterday, and he agrees. Here's the clip.
I don't believe there's racism within the senior ranks of the royal family at all. And look, I'm a grandfather, and I can tell you do speculate on these things. I mean, even as a father, you know, are your kids going to have dark hair, brown eyes, and blue eyes, whatever? And the skin tone thing was just a kind of, here's the, you know, this beautiful biracial woman married to the world's, are we allowed to say ginger? I've been told that's no longer. But anyway, the world's most famous ginger. You know, come on. Of course people wonder.
That was a fantastic and insightful interview. What did you make of Christopher Anderson's comments, Kinsey?
Mark, I just love you. You are so positive, and I just love every time I get to talk to you. It makes me so happy. But what I really enjoy about Christopher Anderson is that he's saying there's no royal racist. And I think that we really need to I think we need to accept this instead of trying to figure out who it is. It was so unfair of the Sussexes to go on TV and say somebody said something. So I liked the fact that he said this was an innocent comment that was made, and no one meant any harm. He goes on to say in the interview that he believes that somebody had ulterior motives when they repeated the comment to Prince Harry, and I think that that's probably true myself. I don't think he says there are no royal racists, when it comes to the senior members of the royal family, and I can't help but believe that to be true. I don't think that Prince Charles has any racism or anything ugly in his heart.
Do you think that the narrative that there is racism with the royal family is crumbling by the day?
I hope it is. I really do hope it is. But because Christopher Anderson released this book only in the United States and foreign commentators had limited information on it, this story kind of blew up. And it was like revealed royal racist instead of Christopher Anderson says he knows that this comment was made and he didn't mean it this way. So I hope that it goes away, because I don't think it's true. I think that the people that we are dealing with right now, and that's Prince Charles, Camilla, William, and Kate, I think that these are all people that have at this point, good moral compasses and have open hearts and are not absolutely in no way, shape, or form have any bit of racism in their hearts.
I absolutely agree with you. Let's talk about Meghan Markle, who scored a victory against the Daily Mail newspaper this week in the High Court. They upheld a previous judgment in her favour against the publishers of the Daily Mail. Though it's likely that the court battle will continue, the decision marks a big win for the Duchess of Sussex in her fight against British tabloids and tabloid culture in general. How did this news go down stateside?
Well, to be quite honest with you, the Sussexes over in the States are really driving home the message that the British tabloids are, horrible, and that, the Americans are accepting that narrative, and it's hard not to accept that narrative after the death of Princess Diana. We've got that locked in our minds, and then the Sussexes come over and say the tabloids, the bad press drove us out. So I don't think Americans, I don't think they expected anything else from this. I think that they expected her to win this case. And although I get a slew of negative commentary when I say anything positive about Meghan Markle, so I'm looking forward to it. I will say, in this instance, a win for Meghan Markle is a win for the monarchy. We saw what photographers did to Kate Middleton while she was on vacation. We know James Hewitt tried to sell letters from Princess Diana. I think that as long as she is fighting for privacy, it's fine. I'm okay. I'm cheering her on as long as it's about the royal family protecting themselves. I'm okay with that.
Many people think that Los Angeles, the streets of that great city, are paved with gold, but there's currently a crime wave happening in LA due to a new no bail policy. Tell me about this no bail policy, Kinsey.
It's insane, Mark. It's like 12 to 14 people at a time will break into a Louis Vuitton. They'll break into, these high-end stores, Neiman Marcus. They rush in. They grab as much merchandise as they possibly can. It's thousands of dollars worth of merchandise and leave. If the cops get their hands on them, they're arrested and immediately set free, which is insane. Even it's to the point now where our media is saying the 14 people just arrested for the smash and grab are already on the streets again. So the narrative is kind of changing with our own local news, where the local news is trying to hold, some of our policymakers accountable. But people are being released as quickly as they are arrested. And I've lost count of how many smash and grabs we've had in the state of California in the last month. It is just, they're breaking into jewelry stores. insane. It's scary. And if you watch the videos, they walk in with hammers. They'll just beat on the display glasses until they break. They steal everything they can get their hands on, and then they leave. And then they go to jail, they go home, and then they get ready to go do it again because they are not held accountable for what they just got in trouble for. So it's really scary, and there's no end in sight because we're just now getting to the point where the local news is saying, this isn't okay that people are just able to steal and then be out on the streets the next day.
It's deeply worrying, and there is, I guess, a picture being painted of a great city in long-term decline. Some of the ritzier parts of Los Angeles are now homeless cities.
Yes, it's really quite frightening. I used to live, well, this is a terrible example, but I used to live on Santa Monica and Bundy, which is right where the O.J. Simpson incident happened. And that is actually a very ritzy part of the city, but I moved out of it because it had become a homeless encampment. And, you'd be asleep at night. Nobody has AC here. I don't know if you know that, but because you're quote unquote near the beach, nobody has air conditioning. So you're trying to sleep at night with the windows open, and you're hearing just people screaming because the homeless community has grown so much in your neighborhood. And even I can't I'm spacing on the name, and I apologize, but we're having home invasions, celebrity home invasions. A woman was murdered. Tyler Perry has come forward and said he's going to, donate as much money as possible to help find the person that murdered this woman. But home invasions of celebrities. But what's so crazy is Seth Rogen, who is, the ultimate stoner film celebrity, recently defended the city of Los Angeles, saying like, hey, my car's been broken into 15 times. That's what you should expect in a big city. It is amazing to me that somebody that lives behind pearly gates, has security on standby, has all of the access to things I don't, is trying to defend the city and say, no, this is just what you should expect from a big city. I've lived in a lot of big cities, and I have never been as fearful as I am in this one.
It's a shocking story. Well, do stay safe, Kinsey, and we look forward to catching up in a week's time. The fabulous Kinsey Schofield. Check out her website, todiefordaily.com. Now, coming up, is catcalling a harmless form of complimenting, or should it be made a criminal offence? We'll discuss that with my panel in the news agenda. And also, have you ever had seat rage on public transport? We'll discuss that. And don't forget, we've got the Great British Game Show coming up, Celebrity Hairdos. My panel and you at home will be playing along with this fantastic game based around a big news story of the day. And it's rather creatively called Wish You Were Hair. Looking forward to that one. Lots to get through. A big 35 minutes to come. See you shortly.
You're watching GB News live across the UK and the world on our digital stream.
GB News is Britain's news channel.
We are the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
We are here for you. Don't forget to join our YouTube community by clicking on that subscribe button.
And if you want the GB News app, you can click and catch up on programmes anytime.
We love to hear from you, so email us.
gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Thanks for being part of the GB News family.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilized conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Colin Brazier. I've reported from more than 70 countries around the world, covered wars from Afghanistan to Iraq, from Lebanon to the Balkans. I'm trying to bring that experience, that feel for events, to the studio. And something else, I'm ready to give an opinion. Today's stories with a spark. Brazier from 8 p.m. weekdays on GB News.
Reacting to the big stories of the day and tomorrow's newspaper front pages is Aidan McGee, top sports broadcaster, best-selling author, lawyer and presenter Rebecca Jane, and journalist and commentator Connor Tomlinson. Now, the Law Commission is set to call for the criminalisation of public sexual harassment, like catcalling and making lewd comments. The plan is hoped to stop the harassment of women in pubs or on the street and crack down on the violence against women. It will also recommend making inciting hatred against women a criminal offence, but will stop short of making misogyny a hate crime because it's said to be ineffective and potentially counterproductive in terms of protecting women and sentencing offenders. But what do we think? Is catcalling harmless fun? Is it banter? Or should it be banned? Rebecca, can I start with you? Have you ever been catcalled? Or wolf whistled?
Yeah. I think every female has at some point. But for me, I don't know where you're going to draw the line with this stuff. Like, where does it go too far? I also think that at the end of the day, we need to be breeding better humans rather than actually putting it down to catcalling being a problem. And I also don't think that catcalling is going to lead to any kind of reduction in violence against women. And I really despise anything that is sort of gender-based. And it kind of feels like this is aimed at the female sort of gender. I don't like it. It's nonsense.
Do you see a connection between catcalling, wolf whistling and violence?
No.
Right.
No. I don't see it. But then I think that this is another one of those snowflakey problems. That, you know,
do you think where the law should come in is when anything becomes physical, essentially?
Yes. I think that there was an element that we just mentioned, actually, about, what was it, to do with...
Hate crimes?
Yeah, hate crimes towards
misogyny.
women. Yeah, I think that might be something... But it's not just about women, it's about men as well.
Yeah.
But how do you define it?
I have no idea.
This is the problem with hate crimes. If the action is already illegal, you cannot prosecute someone for having a hateful thought in their head, because it doesn't matter if they wanted to murder you for a personal reason or for a racial or sexual reason, etc. Because then the only thing hate crimes does is set you on the slippery slope of the government start policing the thoughts in people's heads.
But is it not nice for a female, or a bloke for that matter, to walk down the street and not worry about being heckled or have anything shouted at?
You're not going to stop that. I mean, for example, what words are going to be outlawed? Am I going to be prosecuted for calling a barmaid sweetheart when I
think it's a wolf whistle kind of thing, but I genuinely start to worry about the day where I don't get that.
There was a Guardian.
That's a long way from now.
Actually, said, men catcall me. When will patriarchy end? And then 5 years later, she said, I hit 35 and I stopped being catcalled. What happened?
Yeah, what went wrong? What do you think, Aidan?
My concern...
You little gorgeous hunk of meat.
Oh, thanks.
Fine, drink first.
Look at you. Sex on legs, you are, love.
I've only known him a couple of hours. No, listen, Mark, what I'm concerned about here, apart from your comments, is that... Your comments about me...
Which, by the way, were all true.
No, what I'm concerned about is that I don't know, like all bad legislation, how enforceable is it? You know, they're coming off... Say a woman comes off a bus and goes up to, I don't know, somebody, a TfL member of staff, or a Bobby on the beat and says, oh, someone just pinched my bum. Well... You know, if nobody saw it, but if nobody saw it and nobody heard the catcalling, well, you're still going to have a charge, you still need a prosecution, there's still going to be needs to be a court case, and it's not going to get to that.
But do you not want a
zero
tolerance culture in which it's not acceptable for women to have stuff yelled at them as they walk home, potentially late at night?
I don't think the appropriate way to do it is through the legal route. I think I'd be more inclined to agree with Rebecca here.
Educate the public
and
win hearts and minds.
Yeah, make it socially unacceptable, more so than it is now.
I think it's getting that way, though,
Tell blokes it's not an effective strategy to pick up girls bibbing them out your white van, funnily enough. They're not going to fall at you.
I know you've tried it, Connor.
Oh,
it's been
well, of course, yeah.
I think it's time for you to decommission that transit van.
Yeah.
You've had no luck.
You know what, John, what else I think this is about? What else is I think it is at play here, and that's that confidence from females in the police, in London particularly, in the last year or so has hit an all-time low. This might be a cynical way of the Conservative government to try and reach out and try and mend that bridge.
Yeah.
In reality, though, it probably doesn't mean a lot, as my two colleagues.
I was going to say, actually, partly as well, who proposed it was Sajid Javid. So much for being on the watch for wokery in the NHS. I think someone needs to hand him a mirror. The UN actually went on, I believe it was France 24, the day that I went on to debate the migrant crossings, and said, violence against women is a pandemic. So they're using the same language as COVID.
Ridiculous.
And then Wales said about, locking down only men as a curfew in response to Sarah Everard. So we're seeing the same sort of authoritarianism. Yeah, they're packaging the same sort of authoritarianism in as if violence against women is a public health measure.
And of course, what you don't want to lose is banter.
Yeah.
And you don't want to lose flirtation, Rebecca.
Yeah, what kind of society are we living in where we're even talking about this?
We lost that battle already, surely.
Yeah, Sajid Javid is basically acting as the man from the Gillette advert that walks up and puts his hand on his mate's chest to stop him chasing the girl down the street.
The thing for me is that in the world of criminal law, we have to look at the mindset of the person. And, you know, if somebody wolf whistles, who on earth is going to go into the mindset of that person and say that they've got intention to be malicious by doing that? There's no malicious intention in somebody wolf whistling. It's a sign of appreciation, and we just need to stop the snowflakery.
Couldn't agree with you more. Amen to that. Well, praise be, because a 22-year-old British entrepreneur has made a multi-million-pound fortune after his Christian prayer app for the phone was backed by Hollywood A-listers and Silicon Valley money men. Ed Beckel, the chief executive of Glorify, raised £30 million for the app that he invented in church, giving the company a valuation of £188 million. I think Aidan's going to invest in that one. Glorify allows users to worship via their smartphones, offering a curated workshop routine. Offering a curated worship routine with bite-sized Bible passages. Currently, there are 250,000 regular daily users with a total of 2.5 million downloads, a huge rise for an app only launched in February last year. So with numbers like that, could there be a post-pandemic surge in religion? What do you think, Aidan? Do you think this could be a growth area?
Not necessarily
God on your phone?
Not necessarily because of the app. I mean, you know, I'm a practicing Catholic. I was in church on Thursday morning. Well, I go to the shorter service in the week because it's a little bit long at weekends for me, for my attention span.
You like a good half hour, a tight half hour.
Yeah, exactly. You know, the Mass has changed. I mean, I've been going through lockdown anyway, but I mean, it's changed. There's not as much. You don't shake hands. You don't have wine, so you don't share a cup. But the numbers are quite robust. I've been quite surprised. And there's social distancing as well. I don't think... I mean, also, my parish priest as well, Father Peter Murphy, he's actually got a way of putting his phone up so that people can see the Mass from outside. You don't actually have to be at the church. And the problem for the church after that, though, is that they need people there. Otherwise, how are you going to give to the collection plate? Yeah. You know, I'm going around with a plate, you know, collecting money from everybody. There's nobody in there. We don't want that situation. So I think they're coping quite well.
A communal shared experience.
Yes,
as well.
Absolutely. And also with the pandemic as well, with the elderly congregation, I think there's a worry as well that they don't have necessarily the confidence to come back. So I think it's held up better than we expected. I'm not convinced that an app, which, by the way, at the bottom of the article, as we discussed offset, it's actually not making any money. So that's the caveat at the bottom. That's the small print.
It happens all too often. Connor, do you think that there will be a post-pandemic surge in faith? Because I just wonder whether people have started to think about life and its true meaning in lockdown.
Well, I don't think, like you said, it will be caused by the app, because Silicon Valley and Hollywood aren't exactly the most pious of types, so forgive my cynicism if I think they're not investing in it purely to spread the good word. Funnily enough, I was brought up Catholic as well. My grandparents, they've been involved with Catenians, so done a bit of charity work and things like that over time after they lost their son. And they've said a lot of people are very eager, even younger people, to get back into the sort of community focus thing. And a lot of young people my age now, definitely more Gen Z than millennials, I'm the tail end of the millennials, they're more likely to be religious. And I think it's a lot because of the sort of social decay that online social media stuff has caused permanently. I think you're going to find more strong friends and fair weather and a stronger partner in a church than on Tinder these days.
Would a more faithful world be a better world, Rebecca?
You're never going to find that with religion. I find that... I'm going to offend a lot of people here. I personally feel like the religious sector of people are actually some of the most dishonest and unfaithful people that I've come across. So, No, I don't think that that's the case.
You know a bit about this as well. You investigated.
Yes, I spent 9 years as a private investigator,
yeah.
And infidelity was the main thing that we investigated. So.
And what did you find among religious groups? That
they are the worst.
There's some very unchristian Christians out there.
Absolutely, yeah.
Can you have an example? Can we have some examples, maybe?
Well, I'm a very sceptical person when it comes to this kind of stuff. So I'm probably not the person that we should be looking to for this kind of discussion. However, what I will say is that the way that they come as such a close community, I often find seeps into other areas. And therefore, yes, I'm going to stand by that they are some of the most dishonest people that I've come across. Also, I think that if we want to talk about dishonesty, this guy in his little app, I think he's hired a fantastic PR team for this.
Yeah, true.
I don't think there's going to be a surge in people becoming religious. I think it's a PR stunt. It says at the bottom of the article that his app has made no money. And so it's all inflated, it's all a load of nonsense. And unfortunately, I think he's given religion a bad name.
But do you not think that what we've learnt in the course of the pandemic is that it's family that we need, it's faith, spirituality, and that materialism is dead?
I think that the unfortunate thing about this is that I was also brought up heavily Christian, and I'm sure my parents are watching, sorry, Mum and Dad, who are they are Church of England wholeheartedly through and through, and I'm absolutely not. I do believe more in spirituality and that there is something out there, I don't know what it is, and I think that throughout the pandemic, I feel like more people went on that train than anything else, and that actually we should be focused on what's around us, our family, and sorting out our own mindsets.
I went to the most haunted hotel in the country last week, apparently. There were even spirits behind the bar.
Nicely done.
Horrific. Off you go.
Tell you what, it's an oldie but a goldie. So much more to get through. After this, another instalment of the Great British Game Show. That's where we play a game based around a news story of the day. And today, it's celebrities and their haircuts. Can you guess the celebrity from their hairdo? We're going to play a game of Wish You Were Hair. You don't want to miss that one. Plus, do you have a problem with people sitting next to you on the tube maskless? One woman did, and it led to quite the altercation. See you after the weather.
It's time to remind ourselves there's always another winter. Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Looking ahead to tomorrow's weather, and the UK is looking rather windy and chilly at first, with wintry showers, especially in the east. Let's now take a look at the details. It'll be a rather cold and very windy start in the southwest. There'll be scattered showers, some heavy, and turning wintry over the high ground of the moors. A chilly start with strong, gusty winds for all areas. It'll be cloudy with outbreaks of rain, possibly bringing a little sleet over the hills. Remaining very windy and cold in Wales with some clear skies. There'll be scattered showers at times, these wintry over the higher ground. It'll be mostly cloudy in the northwest at first. The odd shower is possible, again turning wintry over high ground. It'll be very windy, especially near to the coast, and feeling cold. Starting with showers and longer spells of rain in the northeast on Sunday morning, this bringing sleet or hill snow at times. A cold and rather windy start for all. It'll be a cold, clear and locally frosty start with a risk of some early icy patches. Cloudier conditions towards Edinburgh with a little rain or hill snow possible. There will be a mixture of showers and clear spells at first for Northern Ireland. The showers possibly wintry at times. It will be rather windy and feeling cold. Wintry showers will persist in the east, remaining drier in the west. Windy in the south, but winds easing in the north.
Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
You're watching GB News live across the UK and the world on our digital stream.
GB News is Britain's news channel.
We are the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
We are here for you. Don't forget to join our YouTube community by clicking on that subscribe button.
And if you want the GB News app, you can click and catch up on programmes anytime.
We love to hear from you, so email us.
gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Thanks for being part of the GB News family.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilized conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Colin Brazier. I've reported from more than 70 countries around the world, covered wars from Afghanistan to Iraq, from Lebanon to the Balkans. I'm trying to bring that experience, that feel for events, to the studio. And something else, I'm ready to give an opinion. Today's stories with a spark. Brazier from 8 p.m. weekdays on GB News.
Should it be a crime to catcall women in the street? Lots of emails coming in on that one. Johnny says, Mark, my missus doesn't just not give a hoot when she gets catcalled, but is fine with it. She is, however, a grown-up. Nice to get a bit of attention. It's harmless. And what's the problem is what she says. To be honest, I agree. It always was a harmless way of men showing a bit of appreciation for women. And if that's wrong, then you need to look at the people who say it's actually wrong. How about Sandy, who says, Mark, it's about men feeling they have the right to harass women. Leering and lewd behaviour leads to women being intimidated, and it's disgusting. Banter tends to be one way. The comments of all of your panellists are a disgrace and not balanced at all.
Probably ugly.
There you go. However, apart from that, adds Sandy, enjoying your show. Well, Sandy, enjoying having your company. A couple of other quick ones on this. Okay. Tess says, Mark, this is disgusting. I've seen young women who are simply jogging in T-shirts and running trousers being tooted up and called at by men. It's simply weird, perverted behaviour. It's getting so bad that if a woman simply smiles at a man, they mistake that as a come-on, then get angry if they get told the woman's not interested in them. And she was simply smiling and saying hello when she got introduced. And on weight loss, this is an anonymous one from one of my regular viewers who says, Dear Mark, a bit late in the game, but please read this out if you get it. I've lost 8 stone in the last 3 years by joining a slimming club, Slimming World. My classes stopped due to COVID. The only thing I had control of was my weight, as we lost all our savings and lots of future earnings due to COVID. I'm happy to say I'm continuing to lose weight. It's difficult, but if you want to do it, you will. Well, thank you so much for that, and I do wish you well. Congratulations on all of your progress with your weight. So a little bit more to squeeze in to the show. I'll be honest, I think we've saved our best till last. For my panel, Aidan McGee, Rebecca Jane and Connor Tomlinson. Now, in a viral clip, a maskless woman crammed into a tiny space next to a vulnerable passenger on a London train. Well, basically what happened is a bizarre row broke out over a seat. Take a look.
Sorry. Do not touch my property, ma'am. I'm sorry to say that. It's a 3 seats. I am exempt. You do not wear a mask. I'm exempt as well. Where is your badge? Where's your phone? Your phone. Your phone. If you don't want to see it, go out.
The row started when a different woman wearing a black coat approached the seated lady herself in the tiny gap. The obviously shaken woman went on to blame the 2 unmasked passengers for the emergence of the new strains. But was she right to fight for the spare seat? Connor, I think this is the problem with these mask mandates. It creates conflict within our population.
It creates serious division. I mean, first of all, let's make it very clear. There's not much evidence the masks are all that great. There's about 53 million of them that go to landfill every day, 450-year decay cycle, and most of them are stitched together by slave labour in China. There's more masks than jellyfish in the oceans at the moment, and places like Germany that mandated medical-grade masks are seeing the highest spike in cases across Europe. So they seem to have done sweet. nothing. In this situation in particular, all three people involved seem to be both narcissists and driven completely insane by the COVID regulation. You've got the woman who's dressed like Jack Nicholson's Joker, screaming her head off performatively on the camera, blaming everyone for COVID. And then the other two people were assaulting her, grabbing her belongings and making themselves entitled to what looks to be a pretty small and uncomfortable seat. Honestly, get over yourselves, stand, it's a tube. You're not going to be on it for very long. Stop kicking up a fuss to social media and you're not going to die from the mild head cold that COVID's become.
It's a good point you make about the seat, actually. I've seen those seats on the new style tubes, particularly the one that runs from Croydon all the way over to Shepherd's Bush when I go to watch QPR play. Now, there's a seat there. It's almost like it's a half a seat. It's almost like one of those love seats that you get in IKEA.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of almost a sofa, but it's not really. And so if someone sits down, you're kind of invading their space anyway to some degree. So I think there's an argument waiting to happen anyway. Yeah. That's TfL's fault, obviously. But yeah, these two have taken it completely to the extreme.
And an example of COVID hysteria. This is a brainwashed nation, isn't it, Rebecca?
Isn't it just? Do you know what? I've had 2 incidents this week that have really riled me up, and one of them was today. One was a security guard in a well-known London.
Go on, tell us where it was.
I don't think that anybody will appreciate me doing that.
Anyway,
a posh shop somewhere in town.
It was, yeah.
Posh shop somewhere. Anyway, absolutely infuriated me. I am not a mask wearer for various reasons. And I had a security guard trying to educate me after 6 years in law school on the law and asking me, this winds me right up, when they ask you where your pass is. So people with disability are now expected to go around with a lanyard around the neck, pointing out to everybody they've got a disability. I don't think so. She did it there. She's got a pass around her neck. Don't do it. Just don't do it. But she was... absolutely. Like, I genuinely looked at that clip and thought, are you an actress?
Yeah,
It seemed a bit bizarre.
I mean, if you're vulnerable, if there's COVID on that train, you're going to be exposed.
Yeah,
I mean, this
without
is
doubt.
the point about
But it was
masks.
ever thus.
It was ever thus.
Not COVID necessarily, but that's where you got your flu and your colds from in the past.
I would have thought so. And so on the law, very, very briefly, because we need to get to the game, but you do not have to demonstrate why you're exempt. Nope. And if you find putting a mask on highly distressing, you are exempt, and that's it. Any pursuit as to why you're exempt is potentially harassment. Is that right?
Yes, absolutely, under the Equality Act.
Yeah.
And I absolutely invite everybody who is ever asked to demonstrate why they are exempt to follow it through, make complaints, and don't stand for it.
Yeah.
I think it's disgusting.
Know your rights. Well, you can buy almost anything if you have enough money, but you can't buy style. Elon Musk has proved this, perhaps, as he was photographed sporting a rather unusual mohawk haircut as he arrived in Miami ahead of the art-based Miami, an exclusive international art fair for the rich and famous. Almost $300 billion, and that's his hairdo. What was he thinking? It got us thinking about the importance of hair and how it can be a window into the soul. Some celebrities are defined by their hair. You don't even need to see their face sometimes, just the hairdo. That's right. It's that time in the evening in which we play another great British game show. So let's play Wish You Were Hair. Really excited about this. I want you at home and my panel to identify the celebrity from their barnet. Let's start with celebrity number 1.
Oh,
that be? It's an easy one, Rebecca.
Come on. It's Marilyn Monroe.
There's someone you'd want to wolf whistle. It is indeed Marilyn Monroe.
Are we getting points for this, by the way?
Yeah.
You're getting
just for fun. Are we getting points for this? Or
money, hard cash.
Hard cash.
Yeah,
fantastic.
Okay.
£1,000 to the winner. And there she is, the fabulous Marilyn Monroe. OK, celebrity number 2.
Oh.
Kennedy.
Come on, are they going to get harder?
They are getting harder. Don't worry about that. It is JFK. Well done. Full points so far. How about our next celebrity?
Oh, the king himself.
It is indeed the king. It's Donald
Elvis Presley.
Trump, isn't it? Of course it is.
Absolutely.
It's the Donald, the orange one. Brilliant stuff. And time for our next celebrity. Who could this be?
None of that hair's real, by the way.
Yes. We're almost not... Say Elvis, we're not even saying who they are.
Really? If that's not real, that's what you've paid for?
Absolutely right. It is, of course, Simon Cowell. Do you think that's real? Do you think it's real, Rebecca?
Of course it is. He's had the same
It's gotta be
hairstyle
real.
for
You
about 30
don't
years.
buy
He's had
that.
so much work done. He's basically an action man.
You don't buy that hairstyle.
Joe Biden did, and look how bad that is.
Do you think that men obsess too much? We talked to a hair surgeon last night about hair loss, Rebecca. What do you think of baldness?
Oh, well, I mean, I'm not a fan.
See, that reaction, there you go. That's why. That's the obsession.
I have my hair cut every 5 days.
Every 5 days?
All right, a bit excessive, mate.
Well, a little bit. But
where do you go?
It's called Barbers of Bromley in Bromley, funnily enough. And but I've struck up such a good relationship with my hairdresser. We do all sorts of stuff outside of the salon now. He does, he does stuff, favours for the family. Family do favours for him. He's more than a hairdresser. I hope
You
he's watching.
see your hairdresser more than I see my parents. You've got problems.
Although he looks pretty good on it, I've got to say. Let's take a look at our next celebrity. Wish you were here. Who could this be?
It's The Rock.
The Rock.
It is. You just know that not from his head, but from his shoulders.
You can see the grin through the blares.
You really, really can. Dwayne The Rock Johnson. How about our next celebrity? Celebrity number 6.
It's Rod Stewart.
Yeah, Rod Stewart, yeah.
Or is it Limahl, who was on the show earlier? Who, by the way, has still got it. But there you go, there's Rod. Rod said in an interview that when his hair doesn't stand up anymore, that's when he'll quit.
Oh.
OK, how about this, another celebrity whose hairdo is this one?
Is this you in years gone by?
Oh, I don't know.
I think it might be.
Surely
you
I'm not that handsome.
It might have been you in your Balls of Steel days.
I think that's you.
That shirt is actually worse than Rod Stewart, so congratulations on
It is
It
a
looks
bit,
like
yeah.
what I'm wearing. Give it a break.
I hadn't seen an
my
iron at that
points
point.
themselves.
Look at that brooding picture of me.
What year's that?
I got it.
That would have been 2004.
Wow.
Yeah, I was young.
Yeah.
With a lot of hope in my eyes.
Yeah. I'm not sure
No
about the
crow's
hair.
feet, all my own teeth.
The jawline that looks like you're chewing a wasp.
Just a little bit.
I'm not sure about the hair, but I think it will grow on me.
Oh,
Nicely done.
I see.
I definitely should have gone to the barber that day. How about our final celebrity? Let's go for this one.
That's Lionel Richie.
Let's take a look. Is it Lionel Richie? God, you guys have absolutely... it was nearly me for a second. It was nearly a blend of Lionel Richie and my face. It's the celebrity from hell. There you go, Lionel Richie. But look, most of those celebrities are famous for their hair and they've mostly kept it. But I think, actually, if it starts to go, you just got to own it, Connor, don't you think?
Yeah, I think if you try and do a comb over too much, it's a bit obvious. Start looking a little bit like Baldy Man from the 90s. I wouldn't.
I think they're getting better. That's the thing. I did the story in the News of the World in 2011 when Wayne Rooney had his hair transplant. He had that picture in the back of a cab where he took his cap off. And you could see the weave coming through. It didn't look too impressive. It looked a bit wispy. But I've seen some more recently.
Where was
I
that
have
hair
too. They look really good.
Taken from, by the way?
Usually the back of the head.
Oh, I didn't think Wayne Rooney's was taken from the back of the head.
Yeah, and I think it was.
I'm very unlucky, I think, because, I'm 47 and, I have more or less a full head of hair. I guess there's less than there was when I was 20 or even in 2014. But I get nicknamed curly comb over sometimes.
Oh dear.
Because the way my hair, the way I style it, it looks a bit like a comb over, but I'm no Bobby Charlton, not yet.
I did think that, I must admit, until you addressed the issue last night, Captain Comb Over, etc.
Well, I did, yeah.
And then you proved it as well, because you pushed it back. And
It's clearly not been on your mind ever since.
No, I think it's my new brand, I'm going to say. I'm loving it. I think it suits me down to the ground. But, of course, that's just a matter of opinion. But look, I think it is a marvellous thing. Now, to lighten your evening before we go and bring a bit of joy to your Saturday, here's the moment a squealing kitten was pulled out of a car bonnet. Take a look at this.
Yavaş. واستا لو لای راچه شو وای درمانینا و اخیرا درمانینا او پیگشتن.
You've got to love a lovely kitten video, haven't you? My thanks so much to you for your company tonight and all your wonderful emails as well, my amazing guests, and especially my fabulous panel, who I hope will return shortly to the studio. It's been a busy and eventful 3 hours. Do catch up on the show via our app and also at GB News on Twitter. George has crafted some lovely clips from tonight's show, including my big opinion monologues at the start of the show about pets in lockdown, a subject that's close to my heart, and the fact that Rishi Sunak needs to be a Conservative Chancellor and cut taxes. So all of Those things can be found on our Twitter handle. I'm back tomorrow, and I'm delighted to say my Mark Meets guest is the former football club chairman and Brexit Party MEP Rupert Lowe. A really big show planned, a classic clash as well. See you tomorrow at 9.
It's time to remind ourselves there's always another winter. Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Looking ahead to tomorrow's weather, and the UK is looking rather windy and chilly at first, with wintry showers, especially in the east. Let's now take a look at the details. It'll be a rather cold and very windy start in the southwest. There'll be scattered showers, some